now. Okay. All right, let me get a video up real quick while I take 5 here. And, okay. Switches over to EJ Space and Rocket Preview. Let me see. Let me see. The automated vacuum cleaner just knocked over something. Yeah, and it just beeped that. It just beeped that it knocked over something. You guys hear that? Doo-doo. Now it's crying that it's stuck on something. Okay. I'm trying to find a freaking video here. Look at this. Oh dear. Oh dear. I have work. I have work to do. You can watch this while you're away. That's not royalty free, dude. It's not public resource. I gotta go over to NASA. Oh dear. Wow. I think I might go read the comments section on that video while I'm on break, while I'm eating, for fun. Just so I can get a good laugh. Yeah, I'm gonna go with get a good laugh. Alright, let's see.
Hey, babe.
Yeah?
Did you take a break yet?
I'm about to.
Oh, okay.
Here, I got a good one for you guys here. Alright, I'll be back in a second.
Rising out of the flat desert sands in Edwards, California, is a giant metal structure standing 100 feet tall and almost 100 feet wide. It's made of industrial-strength steel that could withstand the harshest winds and rain. This monolith of the desert, located at NASA's Dryden Flight Research Center, has been an unsung hero in the life of the Space Shuttle program for the last 34 years. This steel giant is called the Mate-Demate device, or simply the MDD.
6 inches, but it moves 3 inches forward and 3 inches aft, and that's the only adjustment you have to set it on top of the 747. You can't move it any more than that.
You gotta remember that thing was built to lift 330,000 pounds. See a shuttle up close, you watch it take off on top of that 747 when it leaves here, and it's just amazing. And you know you had something to do with it.
After the shuttle makes its grand re-entry, landing safely while the world looks on, and after the media has shut off their cameras and gone home, a vital, albeit less glamorous event is just beginning. The processing and mating of the orbiter in the MDD. After landings at Edwards Air Force Base, the MDD is used to hoist and attach the shuttle orbiter onto the shuttle carrier aircraft, so that it can be flown back to NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. While simple in concept, the execution of this task is anything but. Considering the average landing weight of the shuttle is roughly 230,000 pounds and holds research and payloads acquired in outer space, precious cargo indeed. In addition to mating the orbiter to the shuttle carrier aircraft, a modified Boeing 747, the MDD is utilized to process the shuttle, a week-long procedure that includes taking up the landing gear, attaching the tail cone, and literally battening down the hatches.
They have what they call escape operation, and that's when they do the actual defueling. And the people that are doing the defueling, they have to be in a full suit. It's air-contained, self-contained, everything has its own air and everything. It looks like the spacewalkers.
During the week of processing, the orbiter is lifted about 10 feet off the ground, while crews work around the clock.
That's the basic idea, is to put the shuttle on top of the 747. That whole process involves a week of processing to safe the vehicle to put it on the 747.
Just before landing at Edwards, Kennedy Space Center deploys about 120 people to Dryden to process the orbiter. Together with the Dryden team, this highly specialized team of engineers, pilots, and ground crew work in unison under harsh conditions, performing precision, high-risk tasks with a fragile 100-ton spacecraft.
If you don't do your job and do it right, there's always something that could happen that could lead to somebody getting hurt, harming in the shuttle. So you have to make sure your job is done and done right, and with all the expertise known and have. So, and that really what keeps you going is the pride in doing that.
Over the years, ground crews were able to perfect the art of mating and processing the orbiter, but never without risk and hardship. To fully appreciate the complexity and scale of this undertaking, it is helpful to understand how the MDD came to be and how it has served as an essential component in the success of the STS program at large. As the sun was setting on the Apollo space program in the early 70s, a new program, the Space Transportation System Space Shuttle, was dawning. One defining distinction between the two programs was that the Space Shuttle was a reusable spacecraft, unlike its predecessor. The shuttle, or orbiter, was to be lofted into low Earth orbit with the energy of 2 solid rockets and the orbiter's 3 engines fueled by an enormous external tank filled with liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. Upon its return from space missions, the orbiter would re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, flying without power, like a glider, and land on a long paved runway, like traditional aircraft. These methods of launch and re-entry proved to be very effective. With an extremely short wingspan, and without the expendable external fuel tank used for liftoff, however, the orbiter lacked the ability to take off and fly like a conventionally powered aircraft in the Earth's atmosphere. From the start of the program, engineers recognized that the orbiters might not be able to return to their launch site at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida because of an engine malfunction after liftoff or because of unfavorable weather conditions.
Shuttle can't land in the rain, no. Once it breaks through the atmosphere, it starts cooling off, and there's enough space between the tile that any water penetrating actually hydraulically pushes the tile off of the shuttle. The water doesn't have any place to go, so the tiles are just glued on. That's why landing at Kennedy, always concerned because, you know, how much rain it gets there. And we're usually pretty dry here.
In this event, a landing elsewhere would necessitate bringing the shuttle back to Florida, which meant the need for a structure capable of lifting the orbiter off the ground and placing it on the back of the 747 shuttle carrier aircraft. Using cranes to lift and attach an orbiter was deemed a far too delicate balancing act to sustain over the course of the shuttle program. It soon became clear that there was a need to build a permanent and reliable structure to achieve this task. Hence, the idea of the mate-demate device was born, and plans to fabricate and construct the first MDD were put into action. the Kennedy Space Center awarded a $1.2 million plus contract to the George A. Fuller Company, a division of the Northrop Corporation, to design and build the first mate-demate device. Soon after, the MDD at Kennedy Space Center was constructed in 1976. In the early stages of the shuttle program, it was especially important to build an MDD at Dryden first. Assembled in nearby Palmdale, California, the first three orbiters, Enterprise, Columbia, and Challenger, were actually trucked to Dryden. Once there, the MDD would be utilized for the first time in the historic and groundbreaking Approach and Landing Test Program in 1977. The Approach and Landing Test Program, or ALT, was an essential component in the development of the Space Shuttle program. Used to validate the flying characteristics of the orbiter upon re-entry and landing and test its systems in flight. The ALT program made use of the MDD for the first time to load and unload Enterprise onto the Boeing 747 in a series of high-risk test flights in 1977. In 1982, NASA arranged to have a permanent mate-demate device erected in Palmdale. The Orbiter Loading Facility, or OLF, was originally built for use by the Air Force at Vandenberg Air Force Base, where it planned to launch a shuttle for its own missions. When the Air Force canceled the plans for a dedicated orbiter and launch facility on the West Coast, the OLF was relocated to Palmdale.
Several years ago, they were doing refurbishment of the shuttles in Palmdale at the Boeing facility, and the orbiter would fly in on the 747, and they would fly into Palmdale, and we would offload it using the OLF, and then we would transfer the shuttle over to the Boeing folks, and they would do the shuttle modifications, and then, maybe a year later, we'd pick the shuttle up and reverse the process, put it back on the 747, and fly it back to Florida.
The shuttle orbits the Earth at Mach 25 and makes its landing at over 200 miles per hour. But when the orbiter finally comes to a halt on the ground, the massive spacecraft is not easy to maneuver. After landing, the orbiter is towed about 2 miles to the MDD, a process that takes over an hour. Once situated in the MDD, the orbiter is lifted off the ground and held there for days while crews work under and over the orbiter, preparing it for its return flight. Because it is not hermetically sealed, the cargo bay is kept at a positive pressure, and the electronics in the vehicle are kept operational. This ensures that the equipment and any experiments on and in the orbiter are kept cool throughout its stay in the MDD.
Anything that's in the payload bay stays there, because on the ground, the payload bay doors aren't capable of opening themselves. They have a special apparatus back at the Cape to hook into the doors to open it. The doors don't weigh anything in space, so they're driven with very small motors.
The MDD is an open truss structure, standing about 100 feet tall, with platforms every 20 feet. A horizontal unit cantilevers 70 feet out from the main tower units, guiding and controlling the slingback hoist mechanism that attaches the orbiters to raise and lower them. 3 large hoists are used to raise and lower the lift beams. 2 of the hoists are connected to the aft portion of the lift beam, and 1 hoist is attached to the beam's forward section. The 3 hoists operate simultaneously, and they can lift up to 120 tons each. There are 6 stationary platform levels, 2 movable access service platforms, 1 for each side of the orbiter, and other smaller movable platforms.
The old MDD was gray and red. Now if you look down there, it's all gray.
In 2004, Dryden took on the enormous endeavor of removing the lead-based paint that covered the entire MDD. As part of a 5-month process, contractors blasted the paint off the MDD.
The job was huge. There was so much scaffolding and tinting. Once you get a hole in the tint, you had to stop operations. No more blasting until it was repaired, because there was some kind of positive ventilation inside the tent that kept the dust down instead of coming out. We were having 4, 5, 6 days of 30-mile-per-hour winds constant.
By adding an ingredient to the blasting material called blastox, over 200,000 pounds of waste material was spared from being sent to a waste management site. Instead, the waste compound was sent to a Portland cement plant where it was burned in a kiln.
It's a zinc finish, self-healing, so if it gets a scratch, it somehow corrodes and turns back into a zinc. It's an amazing stuff.
Don't have much to do with launch, but we know we got it back there safe from the last time, so always a sense of pride in everything.
Despite the intermittent landing schedule at Dryden, the support crew operating the MDD had an astonishing record of preparedness.
I like to think of myself as a good American for doing that. And all my guys down there feel the same way, I'm sure.
You know, you need to step back at times and realize, wow, this is what I'm doing. It's just a small group of folks that do it.
Throughout its history, the MDD and its faithful crew had a 100% mission success rate over its 34 years of service to the shuttle program.
When I look back someday, I know I'll think of these times and realize just how fortunate I was to have worked on the program. And it's just kind of nice to know that you know, that you were part of something big. So that's about it.
Almost done eating, and then I'll be back in a moment. I hope you guys enjoyed the MDD. Dude, I got more like that if you want.
NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida is home to 3 of the most high-tech garages in the world, where some of the most skilled and dedicated technicians ready a spaceship for amazing adventures, and huge cranes move tons of cargo into place.
I spent a lot of my time here. I spent my life here. This is pretty much my career. Working on the spacecraft, launching spacecraft, remodeling or updating spacecraft.
They're officially called orbiter processing facilities, but often go by OPFs, bays, or hangars. Since 1979, space shuttles have spent about 2/3 of their time inside the custom-built 29,000 square foot buildings. It starts with a short tow from Kennedy's shuttle landing facility following a mission, and some careful maneuvering to pull the spacecraft in just right. Then, platforms and a main access bridge surround the shuttle like a glove.
Each high bay has a footprint that the orbiter, when it rolls in, it has to fit that footprint. And the reason it fits that footprint is because when we jack and level it to take it to what we call maintenance height, all those platforms then interact. And we try to keep those platforms with a maximum distance can be 6 to 8 inches, but a minimum distance of 4 inches. So as these platforms flip down or raise up, we need at least a 4-inch clearance all the way around the spacecraft.
During the first couple of days inside the bays, technicians drain hazardous fuels, dry the engines, and open the door panels to gain access. Then, they remove the previous mission's payload. Next, it's on to about 3 months' worth of work to check the heat shield tiles, swap out the space shuttle main engines, and assess the vehicle's structural, mechanical, and electrical integrity. It's all extremely detailed work that requires quite the team effort.
We do virtually the same testing and checkout and work on the 3 orbiters, but each team has its own feel, and it's really created at the leadership of the team, from the flow director on the NASA side and the flow manager on the USA side. They set the tone for their team, much like a commander sets a tone for a mission.
We all think we're the best, which is good, and it keeps everybody in a competitive spirit, and keeps everybody on their toes.
Columbia was the first shuttle to occupy one of these processing hangars after arriving from its assembly plant in Palmdale, California, atop a 747 carrier aircraft in March 1979. It didn't journey out of the OPF and to the vehicle assembly building until November 1980, more than a year and a half later.
So what we were doing in Bay 1 is we were taking the thermal tiles off of Columbia that were installed at the plant in Palmdale, California. We were bringing them into Bay 2 and running them through the back shop densification process and then reapplying them to Columbia.
At their disposal today are 30-ton bridge cranes with hooks at 66 feet high for lifting operations. Communications rooms, offices, and supervisory control rooms complete the facilities.
Then we keep the temperature very, very moderate. A couple reasons for that. Mostly it's for the hardware. The workers benefit from that, obviously, during the summer months. It's nice working in here versus outside.
The comfortable environment, meant to protect the shuttle hardware from corrosion, is a clean one too. Everyone who works inside lives by very strict house rules that begin with foreign object debris training and orbiter access clerks who log everything that goes in and out, and it ends with daily and weekly walkdowns of the shuttle.
Something as innocuous as a staple, which we don't allow on the paper products out here, but a staple in the crew module just finds a place and it rests. Well, during launch, vibrations, during the zero gravity, that staple could move around and it could create an electrical short.
On occasion, OPF workers get to put their hands on the spacecraft or payloads flying aboard a shuttle, specifically those processed in a horizontal position. And sometimes they have to troubleshoot issues or replace crucial systems. But not without informing the astronauts who will be strapped aboard, traveling about 17,500 miles an hour into space.
We try to keep them tied in or just communicate with the problems that we've had, and it's just a way to just maintain rapport and just so they know, well, we replaced this box or we troubleshot this problem or we changed out this particular component, so they'll understand that, especially if it was an in-flight anomaly from the previous mission, they know we addressed it and she's ready to fly.
It's just been a pleasure. I love the space program. I know they love the space program every bit, and they are also detail-oriented and so meticulous and precise, and they won't let something go that's substandard. I've known that, and I absolutely trust their work implicitly, and I'm very, very proud to be associated with every one of them.
That implicit trust could stem from the personal relationship each OPF worker develops with their shuttle while working in a bay.
But you get to identify with the orbiter. You spend time with it, or you spend time with the spacecraft, and what you find is it takes on its own personality, and you become attached to it, and you actually walk around sometimes and talk to it. You know, you got to be good today. You can't break. You got to do this test. We got to do it on time. So you've got to perform. And you know, people look at you who are outside the business and think you're crazy, but in reality, it's just the niche that you develop with the spacecraft.
That's right. Oh, shut up. You'd talk to it too. Don't turn your nose up at me. Don't turn your nose up at that man. You would have done the same thing. Freaking be in the room with the space. I'd talk to it. Absolutely. Oh yeah. I did that with Enterprise. Freaking did that on stream with Enterprise, you know? Like, I'd talk to it. You gotta talk to it. You gotta tell it it's gonna be alright. You gotta talk to it. You have to. It's just a scratch, Eleanor. It can be fixed. I said 50 calls, not 49 and a half. What's he doing? He's talking to her, man. Gotta get reacquainted. Oh, I'd talk to the dang thing. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway. Welcome to Space News. How's everybody doing? Alright, so let's jump in. I have there's a couple of things here and there today. Mostly good news, actually. Mostly good news. Couple of weird newses. Couple of weird champ newses. But mostly good stuff. want to talk about that. Okay. Well, when the shuttle talks back, that's when you have to be worried. Well, that's why you should be nice to it. They're very quiet. They're very quiet. That's all. Just, you gotta shh. All right. So, let's see. So, we're gonna start off with some SLS pictures, but it's not Artemis 1. These are pictures of SLS's hydrogen tank. It's SLS's hydrogen tank for Artemis 2. We got some nice pictures of the hydrogen tank that was rolled out of its assembly area, and it's being moved around Michoud for the join to structurally complete the second core stage for the Artemis program. It's pretty cool. All the components have been made for the second SLS core. All the components are there. They're all assembled. That was the last one. They just got to put it all together. Everything is there, and you just got to put the second one together. They'll probably, I'll be honest with you, NASA's probably going to get as much as they can done after the Artemis 2 mission, or Artemis 1 mission. They'll probably wait to put this one together in case they encounter any weird stuff during the Artemis 1 mission. If I had to guess, that's what I would do. You have to, because like say they launch Artemis 1 because it's the first one, and they figure out, we tightened this bolts in the wrong order and one of them backed out. So instead of tightening in 1, 2, 3, 4, we need to go 4, 3, 2, 1. And then that won't happen. They're probably going to hold for a second to put it together, but all the components for that second core stage are fabricated. There's the hydrogen tank right there. It's very nice. Artemis 1 is uncrewed, Procyon. Artemis 2 is a crew flyby mission. Yep. Artemis 3 is the one with the lander. Now, it's all tentative, so Artemis 1 is supposed to go this year. Artemis 2 is supposed to go in 2024, and Artemis 3 is supposed to be in 2025, which is... Yeah. Do we know the crew for Artemis 2? No, NASA has not announced that yet. How do they know if a bolt back out if it's expendable? Telemetry. Artemis 1 core is loaded down with sensors. That's part of the reason why getting it all checked out, like getting it ready to launch, is such a pain in the butt. The thing has sensors everywhere. They're all over it. They're everywhere because they want to get a good baseline. Yeah, that thing is loaded down with all types of, IMUs, sensors, like temperature sensors, pressure sensors. It's got probably to the tune of like a couple 1,000 pounds of sensors on it. I'm serious. NASA's talked about how it's loaded down with stuff because what NASA does is when they want to launch it, when they launch it, they want to make sure that they're recording as much data as possible. And all of that data, which is the reason why Artemis 1 and 2 are so far apart from each other on the timeline, like a year and a half, all that data is going to get reviewed. And all that data is going to compared to what they think the vehicle was going to do compared to what it actually did, and then they're going to look for deviations. If everything checks out, Artemis 2 might happen sooner rather than later. I mean, it's possible. Unlikely, but possible. So yeah, that's part of the reason why there's such a huge gap, because they're literally going through mountains, like multiple terabytes, thousands of terabytes of data that's being recorded and transmitted from that vehicle as it flies. And yeah, they'll review it and they'll compare it to the math. So like, here's what I thought it was going to do, and here's what it actually did. And if there's a little bit of deviation there, actually, if you really want to know, the little bit of deviation, if there is any, is going to be analyzed. How far did it deviate? So like, did the vehicle accelerate to 17,501 miles an hour or 500 miles an hour, right? Like, what was your orbital speed? What was your parking orbit insertion velocity? Like that I'm just making stuff up. Like not the process is what you gotta learn. The numbers are made up. Like, so if it did change, how much of a change was it? And is that change okay? That takes time to do. That's why there's such a huge gap between 1 and 2. And that's why I said that they're probably going to wait until Artemis 1 is launched to put together Artemis 2, because if you learn anything, you don't want to have to create extra work for yourself, put it together, take it apart, put it back together, just like what we were doing with the linear bearings a little while ago, or a couple hours ago in Kerbal. What do you think will launch first, Artemis 2 or Polaris 3? There's no conceivable way to be able to predict that, Malachi. No, sorry. Too many contingent details. There's no way. Heck, the heck with Artemis 2 and Polaris 3. Dude, I couldn't even tell you when there's a Starship Orbital flight or SLS. I couldn't even tell you what Artemis 1 or Starship OFT, which one of those is going to go first. I can't even give you a conclusive date. You know why? Because you launch it when it's ready. Doesn't matter if it's SpaceX, doesn't matter if it's NASA. You launch it when it's ready. That's the reality of the situation, man. Next Route 154 to Florida, will you make a stop at the Varhese Center? Yeah, maybe. What is Polaris? Polaris is a new program that was started by Jared Isaacman. Jared Isaacman, the guy who did Inspiration 4, started the Polaris program, and it's basically him financing missions with SpaceX under contract to push the boundaries of human spaceflight in low Earth orbit. He's initially, but could be more in the future, bought 3 missions. He's financing 3 missions from SpaceX. The first one is him and 4 crew will fly Dragon to the highest Earth orbit since the Gemini program. We're talking like, I think it's like 1,300 kilometer orbit, so way up there. The highest humans have been since Apollo 17 in 1970, December of 1972. The highest orbit since. And during that mission, they will EVA. He's also financing the extravehicular activity suit. He's financing SpaceX's EVA suit. And they will perform an on-orbit EVA with a Dragon capsule, which is... I don't think it can be understated how big of a deal that actually is. That's amazing. And then the second mission is another Dragon mission that will push the boundaries further. I have a feeling that it might, this is not what the website says or anything. This is just EJ's gut. I have a feeling the first mission will be going to that high orbit, and then the second mission will do the EVA. That's just good staggered testing. But the third mission, Jackery, is what will kick you right in the stomach. The third mission is that the Polaris Dawn 3 mission is the first crew Starship flight. Jared Isaacman is funding the first Starship crew with this first Starship mission with crew on board. Yeah. So we got the first Starship crew flight on the books monetarily. It's not on the date isn't exactly on the calendar yet, but we have the funding is there, which is Jared said the EVA is on the first mission. All right, well, I'd be inclined to believe him, Lunprod, but I literally just said don't be surprised if it ends up that way, and I know that that's what he said. So I said I know that that's what he said, but I think this is going to do this. So you don't need to remind me that that's what he said, and then you reminded me what he said. Thank you. Appreciate that. Pay attention next time, you dope. Anyway, you think you got a discount due to the SpaceX testing nature of the program? Maybe. Most orbital flight missions are on a contract-to-contract basis, dude. They're on contract-to-contract basis, so it really depends. It really depends what you're doing. It's contractual, you know? So sometime in 2024, there could be a crew Starship mission. It's possible, Firework, yeah. Would that be the first commercial EVA? I think so. That second video from the right behind you is triggering me, LOL. What? with the shuttle and the booster in space. Why is that video triggering you, Procyon? Is it from a movie? No. No, that's real. I guess Dear Moon is something different, Tessa. Yusaku Maezawa is his name. And no, the Dear Moon mission is still on. It's scheduled for next year, which is possible, I suppose. SpaceX is going to need to do a lot of testing. They're going to need to do a lot of testing this year, which is what I did predict at the beginning of the year. I think that 2022 is going to really be about like a hard push for Starship development and testing. And there should be, like, even taking into account Elon time and stuff, by the end of this year, you know, barring like a worst case scenario for Starship or something, like failing the PEA or whatever, which I don't think is going to happen. Yeah, we should have a baseline Starship by the end of the year. Yeah, I think that's right. Procyon, that's real footage. That's a picture from the SRB separating. The first refueling tests are scheduled net end of next year, right? I'm thinking Dear Moon won't happen until 2024. Yeah, I mean, at that point, Ian, it's contingent on how quickly they can nail refueling, huh? Like, that's really what it comes down to. I think they'll have a baseline for it. I mean, Ian, when I say baseline, I mean something that can get up into space and come back down. I'm talking like STS-1 capability, and that's about it. I think that's important. I probably should have mentioned that. Like, Starship can get up and can get back down. And SpaceX, knowing SpaceX, they'll probably do like, well, hell, how many STS-1 style missions, barring crew, do you think that they'll do? 20, 30 of them, most likely. I agree, Mycon. Yep. It's our Apollo program. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Just like the Polaris. Polaris is our Gemini program, which is really cool. Yeah, I've always said that Falcon 9 was SpaceX's Gemini program. That's not really designed to be sustainable. It's just teaching you things to do better things down the road, which seems to be how that's coming into focus. All right, so give me 1 second. All right, so Bill Nelson was at the Confederation of School Trusts meeting 2022 today. It's an expo about, I'm not sure what CSTL is totally about, but here, check this out. So Mike Sheets was there and he covered what he was saying. Let's see. NASA administrator Bill Nelson is now speaking at CST 2022. Nelson, introduced as a person who has flown to space, opens his comments by joking, "My critics wish that I'd gone on a one-way mission." Okay. All right. Nelson calls out the recent double asteroid redirect launch as a NASA mission that particularly got people's attention. Nelson also references the increased activity of commercial space transportation to the ISS, noting that SpaceX is soon to be joined by Boeing later this year in delivering astronauts to the space station. Nelson, after the ISS retires in 2023, NASA wants the commercial industry to take over low Earth orbit. There will be at least one, if not many, commercial space stations where this research and manufacturing are going to take place. SLS will roll out to the pad probably in March or early March. A month after the wet dress rehearsal, it will roll back to the VAB, and a month after that, it will roll back to the pad for the Artemis 1 launch. Okay. That really depends on if everything in the wet dress rehearsal goes correctly, guys. If it doesn't, then it might be a little longer than that. So, I mean, yeah. Nelson, describing the Artemis 3 crewed mission, says that NASA astronauts will be delivered to the surface by the SpaceX lander Starliner. Okay. Nelson references the Axiom space mission as former NASA astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria saying the agency made sure they were prepared to visit the ISS and that the mission is going to showcase the power of NASA investment in commercial space. That's a Dragon mission to the commercial Dragon mission to the ISS, the Axiom 1 mission. NASA's return to the moon and the agency's success in establishing a lunar economy is going to require competition. NASA leadership is committed to having competition on HLS, and they didn't have enough money for first landing, but instead for lunar space transportation services to award future contracts. Yeah, HLS, they shortchanged HLS and then got mad when NASA picked one person. True story. Yeah, just in case you're wondering about what's going on with the landers. So NASA asked for money to pick 2 lunar landers to get to the moon. They said, we need 2 landers, it's important. And Congress said, well, how much money do you need? And they said, I don't know, like $1 billion. And they said, all right, here, have $150 million or something, and just, yeah, okay. And NASA said, well, okay. And then they picked 1. Because it turns out that they changed the contract. They changed the contract structuring to make it so they could pick 1 or they could pick 0 if they weren't satisfied with any of the criteria. And they also said that lander funding could be privately added, basically saying that, you know, if we select SpaceX, we'll pay for a chunk of it, but you can also fund your own lander. You can fund the lander design if you want, as long as it's our design. And SpaceX said, okay. Oh, we could cut our bid in half. So NASA chose SpaceX. And then Congress proceeded to get mad at NASA for picking 1 lander. That's how that played out. Yeah. Hi, Congress people. Can we want to start landing people on the moon. Oh, that's great. You want to start landing people on the moon. Yeah, we need some money to fund a lander so we could buy multiple landers. We need about $1 billion. $1 billion. Hang on here, man. $1 billion. That's a lot of money. I can give you about 150. They literally pawn stars NASA. You're about 150. I mean, okay, but you know that. Oh dear. All right, we got to change the contract so we could pick 1 or pick 0 because I don't think we have enough money to do this. Okay, SpaceX is the only one that meets our budget. Let's pick them, congressperson. You can't do that. You can't pick 1 lander. We need to have 2 landers. Yeah, I know. That's what we said when we asked you for money before and you didn't give it to us. No. We need 2 landers. No, let's make another program so we can get a second lander on the books. But okay. Okay. Now, that's how that played out. EJ's personal theory, I think NASA did that on purpose. I think they chose SpaceX on purpose because I think they knew it would piss off enough people that they would get funding for a second lander. Honest opinion. Why would they change the contract so much like that? That basically favors SpaceX, and that's why Jeff got all pissed off. That's why Blue Origin got really mad. Did you get the Firefly news? I'll check that in a second. So, let's see what else Bill has to say here. Nelson says NASA wanted to establish cadence about one crewed lunar launch per year. Yeah, I know, Help is just kind of funny. We're charting a new era. It's not the Apollo generation, it's the Artemis generation. We're not going to stop exploring the heavens. We're not going to stop daring to take another step into the unknown for the sake of humanity. Prosy and I will say to this day that it's a really good choice. You still haven't told me why you were triggered by that actual footage of the shuttle SRB separation from the booster. Still didn't get an explanation on that one. At this rate, I'll take it. Yeah, no, that's we'll be there sooner rather than later. You got to be patient, but I can't help but think in the back of my head that all this hype beast talk doesn't really jive with that too much. The reality of this situation is that I think Bill is not really the best orator around. The reality of the situation is that this stuff takes time. I explained it when I was just talking about SLS a second ago. Stuff takes time. So you really don't want to hype beast this thing up right now. But, yeah, it is what it is. Tessa, my guess is that this one here is their baseline cadence. That's most likely. Baseline cadence. So like Artemis 3, Artemis 4, Artemis 5, those missions are going to happen probably once a year. Then like 6, 7, 8, and 9, then you'll do 2 a year. And then by the end of the decade, you're going 4 a year. That's my guess. I think that's pretty reasonable. How do I know? Well, how do I know that? So, like, how could you be absolutely sure? That's what they did with Apollo. And if they'd kept going with Apollo, they would have easily been able to sustain 4 launches a year. No problem. Apollo started with once a year. Apollo 4 was 1967. Apollo 6 was 1968. Right? And then, at the end of 1968, beginning of 1969, you had Apollo 8. And then in the middle of 1969, in spring of 1969, you had Apollo 10. And then in summer of 1969, you had Apollo 11. And then in winter of 1969, you had Apollo 12. Now, granted, they scaled up pretty well after the once per year launch cadence. That only happened for 2 years. Which tells me that that's their baseline cadence. That's what they're shooting for. That's like the minimum requirement. They're gonna go past that. There's once a year is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. I'm sorry. I don't care what anybody says. You could have your astronauts going up there and taking a dump. I don't care taking a dump on the surface of the moon and leaving. I don't care how sustainable you think the architecture is with Gateway and all this other stuff. That's not sustainable. That's not sustainable. You can't buy an apartment in you can't buy an apartment in Florida, for instance, right? And only use it once a year. Like 1 day out of the year. That doesn't make any monetary sense. That's not sustainable at all. The more days you're down there, the more days you're gonna, you'll get your money's worth, right? That's why. I look at that one crewed launch a year, like that doesn't make any sense. That's a baseline. There's no way that it's not. There's no way that it isn't. It's just a baseline. They'll do that for probably Artemis 1, or no, not Artemis 1, Artemis 2 and Artemis 3. And then, now that I'm rethinking it, Artemis 4, 5, and 6 will probably end up being twice a year, now that I'm really thinking about it. And I'm using the Saturn V as kind of a baseline. I think by the end of the decade, we'll easily hit 4. Easily hit 4. But you need, it's not just building the rockets at this point. You need another mobile launcher. And personally, I think they should build another pad. But it's none of my business. Well, they do 3 to 4 crew missions to Gateway a year, but only one that lands crew per year. That's not really sustainable either, Hando. Yeah, I don't think that's really sustainable at all either. I mean, well, it's a little more sustainable than one might think, but even still, sending one person down to the moon, the whole point is to go back to the moon, specifically the surface of the moon, with Gateway as kind of an intermediary thing for deep space exploration research, right? To go back to the moon sustainably. 1 launch a year is not sustainable. That's not sustainable at all. 4. Guys, honestly, 12 a year would be really nice. Launching once a month to the moon, that would be great. I think that would be really good. However, I don't think NASA has the facilities to be able to do that, guys. That would be the super ideal scenario. Good enough would be 4 a year, I think. 1 a year is not good enough. That's not good enough at all. Yeah, that's what, and see, you look at that, right? You see 1 a year, and everybody in chat already did. Everybody went, what? Really? Once a year? You just got through yammering about sustainability once a year? That doesn't make much sense now, does it? So, I'm pretty dang sure what's going on here is that once a year is what NASA's committed to as a baseline right now, because they can't say we're going back to the moon 4 times a year just yet. They haven't even bought SLS cores. 4 VAB spots, 4 per year. Honestly, Smirks, you could get it done with 2 mobile launchers. 2 mobile launchers and 1 pad, 2 high bays. That'll do it. That could sustain 4 a year. 4, if all 4 high bays were configured for SLS, and you built, you would need 3 mobile launchers. Yeah, 3 mobile launchers. Yeah, 3 would be enough. 3 MLs for SLS Block 1B that could be converted to SLS Block 2. You need 3 of those things. You need 3 MLs. The 2 crawler transports will be more than enough. You'd need you could do it with 1 pad. They can do it with 39B, but if you have, the thing about it is if you have 1 pad to launch SLS, if there's any bottleneck or any type of delay to any rocket, you're going to literally bottleneck you're going to screw the entire process. 1 rocket gets delayed by a month, the next 3 rockets get delayed by 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. There's ripple effects in schedules like that, especially if you have kind of this assembly line thing going, which is why I think it was, once again, not knocking SpaceX. This isn't a knock at SpaceX. I think it was stupid for NASA to lease out 39A. I think that was a really short-sighted and dumb decision. I don't think that was the right move. But once again, I don't know more than NASA. That clearly got us more use out of 39A in this short term, But I think that having 2 pads for SLS in the long term would probably be a better idea. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy that SpaceX is putting the pad to use. Anything is better than just letting it sit there and do nothing. It was really tough. From 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, pad sat there, abandoned, basically. Yeah, it was AIP, abandoned in place, with its mobile launcher on it, which really was hard to see. Yeah, it was really not, that wasn't cool. I didn't like that at all. Has the VAB ever had more than 2 rockets being configured at a time? Matt, that's actually a super good question. During the Apollo... Hey, pray for Mary. All right, I will. Welcome to Mission Control. You go at throttle up. Matt, that's a good question. So, the VAB at its highest would be during 1969, 1970, 1971. They had 4 Saturn V's basically inside of the VAB in various states. One of them was completed on one mobile launcher. The other one was being stacked on another mobile launcher. So 2 high bays were configured. And then the other 2 were in various stages of delivery. Not the first stage, second stage, and third stage all don't get delivered at the same time, right? So there were 2 other Saturn V's in various stages of delivery, staged in what's called the VAB transfer aisle. The transfer aisle, because engineers are really good at naming things, is an aisle in the center of the VAB where they transfer the stages to the high bays. So if you looked at the VAB, you cut it in half and looked at a cross section like this, that's what it looks like. The transfer aisle is right here. The transfer aisle basically stages the rocket. It stages the stages, and then they move them into the transfer aisle when they're ready to go, and a huge gantry crane built into the top of the VAB picks it up and stacks it on the mobile launcher. That's exactly how SLS was made. SLS did the same thing. But yeah, we kind of did the math out one time. In 1970, they had 4 Saturn V's basically waiting in the VAB. 1970 would have been 13, 14, 15, and 16. Or no, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yep. In various stages of delivery. Like, keep in mind, in the beginning of 1970, Apollo 12 had just launched, so 13 was probably stacked. 14 had probably begun stacking. 15 was probably in pieces inside of the transfer aisle. And then 16, maybe. But yeah, the VAB is very smart, very well thought out. Yeah. You have 4 high bays. 2 of them were configured for Saturn V. 2 of them basically just stayed empty. Right now in the VAB, yeah, there's a picture of SLS's core in the transfer aisle. There's a shuttle in the transfer aisle right there. Yeah, the VAB is on another scale. Oh, there's a crane lifting a crane. That's pretty neat. Yeah, you can see there's the entrance to High Bay 1 right there. There's High Bay 3. 3 is where SLS is being stacked. That's High Bay 4 right there. They use High Bay 4 to stage SRBs, believe it or not. Yeah, they prep the SRB segments and then they lift them up from High Bay 4 to High Bay 3. And then High Bay 2 is right here. Nobody's using that right now. High Bay 2 is not abandoned. High Bay 2 is actually for lease, believe it or not. Yeah, somebody could lease it out if they needed it. Now, as a spaceflight fan, personally, I think it would be really cool if SpaceX used it for Starship. I think that would be really neat. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think they would. Maybe to store them, maybe as a hangar. I mean, you could use it as an orbiter, as a vehicle processing facility. That would be kind of cool. They need more high bays. I think we have enough. So, like, if SLS realistically wanted to do 4 launches a year, you'd need 2 mobile launchers. 2 mobile launchers and basically a new SLS not every 6 months. You're doing 4 launches a year. A new SLS every 3 months. That's doable. It's totally doable. Yeah, guys, there's no way that NASA didn't take that into account. That's what I mean. 1 launch a year doesn't make sense. That's initial. That's your baseline capability. It'll go more later. It'll go higher later. I'm like 90% sure that that's going to happen. Yeah, I would say at least 90. Yeah, that's most likely what's going on because yeah, it's similar. It's a similar testing regime to Apollo. So basically, have 4 times the SLS budget. Got it. No, not at all, Bauxy. No, that's not how that works in the least. The budget will actually go down. Yeah, it'll go down over time. The more rockets you make, the faster it'll go down. Yeah. And then the unit cost per SLS will go down as well, which is why I've been always vocal about having a block buy. You need an SLS block buy now. Well, not now. Probably sometime after Artemis 1, realistically. That's what needs to happen. You need a block buy, 20 SLS cores. 20 of them. It has to be something like that. That contract will keep us sustained out till 2030 easily. And right now we know that I've been kind of looking at NASA's plans, like with what they want to do and stuff. And SLS, some of the contract stipulations for like booster, so they already block bought SRBs, believe it or not. NASA is good for SRBs out to Artemis 12. So that's a good amount. What is that, 60 SRB segments? Yeah. They're good out to Artemis 12, including Block 2 BOLE boosters being implemented after Artemis 9. So 10, 11, and 12 are going to have composite SRBs. And once again, that's not speculation. That's from the contract that we read about SLS block buying SRBs. They've bought Orions, they've bought SRBs, they've bought shuttle engines. They started procuring shuttle engines because they're a long lead item, meaning they take the longest to make, so you buy them earlier than you bought like core stages, for instance. And once again, everything is pointing towards a block buy of core stages sometime probably this year. I thought it would be last year. I thought it would be when Jim was there, but I wasn't really considering all the data at the time. And now, when that happens, you're going to need 2 more MLs. Yeah, you need 2 mobile launchers. That's a huge ticket item right there. You also need EUSs. Artemis 4 is supposed to be the first EUS. So you need a contract for core stages. You need a contract for the exploration upper stage. You need at least 9 of them. I'm going to guess that they'll use one for Artemis 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So 9 of them, and then probably a structural testing article, so 10, which makes sense. That sounds like NASA to me. They bought 20 Saturn V's. That was the block buy that made Apollo happen. They bought 20 of them, and we didn't get to Apollo 20, did we? We didn't get there. There were plenty of structural testing articles, and then there's 3 completed Saturn V's. So, I mean, they made some SDAs, and then actually, that was 20 block buy of flight core stages. Testing article must have been a different contract. Interesting. There was more than 20 Saturn V's. That's the long story short. So, having 9 EUSs with a structural testing article, probably that sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds correct. So you need to do that. You need a block buy of upper stages. You need a block buy of Saturn V SLS core stages. You already have the SRBs procured for the most part. You have the Orions procured for the most part. The universal stage adapter is being worked on. So you're going to need 2 mobile launchers now. Now, I know what people are going to say, but EJ, isn't the SLS mobile launcher that's there? What about that? Why do we need 2 more? That one can't launch Block 1B for multiple reasons. The reason why it can is because that mobile launcher was built for Ares 1, and it can't hold the weight. It will not be able to hold the weight of a Block 1B. It only holds Block 1 and barely. There's deflection on the tower. Yeah, it's not a lot, but it is. It's too heavy for it because it was built for a much smaller vehicle. So, yeah, either that thing is going to have to get completely taken apart. I'm talking about like down to the chassis. Like you got to take the entire launch umbilical tower off. Or you just build 2 new fresh ones. Personally, I say build 2 new fresh ones and then use that mobile launcher to launch I don't know. Maybe launch it if you need a Block 1 SLS. Just put it in High Bay 4 or something and store it there. When are we going to need new SRBs again? Artemis 12. Artemis 13 would probably be the right one. Remember when Elon says ground support and manufacturing is what sinks the budget and complexity? All the time. Still believe that NASA is going to fly Artemis 1 first and make it a proof of concept to prove to Congress and the public that this rocket even works. What do you mean you believe that? That's literally what their testing regime says. Reminder that the new tower is scheduled to cost $1 billion plus 2, not just the first one. Yeah, Bauxy, I don't. You said it's going to cost $1 billion, but if you build 2, there's no way the second one is going to cost that same amount. That's not how that works. Second one would probably be like a quarter of the price. Seriously. Or they'll split the cost over both of them, and they'll probably end up being about $500 million a pop. Yeah. The more of them you buy, the more per unit price goes down. That's why you block buy things with NASA. Yeah. Doesn't necessarily, SpaceX doesn't necessarily need to like make Falcon 9 in batches, for instance. They don't need to do that. NASA does, though. That's a good way to keep the program sustainable. So, I mean, you can say, oh, the mobile launcher is going to cost $1 billion. Yeah, that's fine. You could shift development costs from SLS to another thing. That's fine. If this is done right, if spaceflight architecture is done correctly, guys, NASA's budget shouldn't require any crazy changes. All you should need to do is just combat the price of inflation. That's it. That's all you got to do if done correctly. Here's the thing. I'll show you. So, okay. Say you have dollar amount right here. Okay? You got your dollar amount. And then you have time over here. Okay. So, you have SLS Block 1. Block 1, is everything for the pads and all this other stuff, right? So the funding is going to go like this, right? And then it's going to peak at a price right here, and this is the point right here that everybody likes to be like, nah, it's too expensive. Meh. Right there. The reality of this is here's how this is going to work. Your funding goes up like this, right? This is when you hit the first mission, so Artemis 1 is right there. Right? And then the funding for SLS is going to do something like this. Okay? Now keep in mind this area right here. See that area? It's still going to cost you money, but you did most of your development. Manufacturing things is not as expensive as development. It almost is, but it's not as expensive as that, and it's certainly not as expensive as flying the thing. So, this is all the development for the core stage. Oh, I didn't do that right. SRBs, Orion. Core stage SRBs, Orion 39B. Michoud. Stennis. All the paraphernalia that you need to make SLS work, that's what all this is, that funding is. Okay? Now, here's what you do. The smart thing to do is this. Now, so you'll probably end up having Artemis 2 right here, and then Artemis 3 right here. That's the one that's going to the moon. But these are all using Block 1 SLS, right? They're all using Block 1 SLS. Okay. So now you have the funding go down. Now, as that funding goes down, you ramp up another program. Ramp up another program. This right here can be all the stuff that you need to go from A4 to A12. So right here, this funding goes up. You build your other mobile launchers. You build the 2 MLs, right? And then that one goes down, and then you have Artemis 4 right here. And then you have Artemis 5 right here. And then Artemis 6 is over here. And then that gets compounded for all the other equipment that you need. That's compounded together, right? You see how this peak is not as high as that peak, right? Because we're talking overall funding here on the left. Now, say they want to fund another lander. Say NASA, just for instance, just bear with me here. Say NASA wanted to, you know what, screw funding another lander. Let's not do that. That's commercial. Say NASA wanted to fund a Mars transfer vehicle. Well, guess what? Mars transfer vehicle. Now you have an MTV made. And maybe that launches on another SLS. Maybe it launches on a non-Artemis mission. You know? Or maybe Artemis 7 happens over here. This is an example. This is not what they're going to do. Artemis 7 happens over here and it launches part of that transfer vehicle into space. Maybe this funding right here isn't even for a transfer vehicle. Maybe it's for, 10-meter fairing. 10-meter fairing, composite EUS, something like that. The idea is that if you just kind of sit back and look at this, the budget just slowly goes up over time. All you should need to do is just combat inflation. You got to remember, guys, the VAB is already made. The launch pad's already made. The factory was already there. You didn't need to build a new factory. The test stands are all there. They just need to be refitted. So this is not going to carry an Apollo program style bill. And you can sit here and say that, oh, you know, it's going to cost $1 million. It's not like you're going to add $1 million and your budget is going to go up there. That's not how NASA funding works, unless it's the Apollo program. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. The key is you ramp down funding on one program and you ramp up funding on another one. Even if the ML does end up costing money, it's not going to make NASA's budget balloon like crazy. And if you buy more than one of them, you could basically hide that in the budget so it doesn't look like you're buying a lot. It doesn't look like NASA needs anything crazy. This is what they do. Moon base, landers, yep. So this, it just takes time. That's all. The funding just will incrementally increase over time, and NASA will fund other things. Like, I get it. Like, oh, this is more launches million bucks and price tag. Don't be like some spaceflight journalist, man. Don't look and get sticker shock. That's not how this works. Look at this price tag. It's gonna cost at least this much money. You're not looking at it the right way. Are you controlling the rockets in the background? The rocket graphics back there that are on a repeat GIF? No, I'm not. Is this where the rockets live? Yes, you could see them back there. Good job flying them. Okay. Sorry for interrupting the news. Can you tell when Hearts of Iron? When I feel like playing it, Yoshi. Sorry, I know that doesn't help. I'm usually better about that. I usually agree with you, but I strongly disagree on this subject. Regarding? It's pronounced GIF. Oh, okay. I was gonna say, Pete, like, GIF is peanut butter. Okay. GIF is peanut butter. That's the thing you put on a sandwich. You don't put animated images on a sandwich. Okay? Wrong. Do I look like I know what a JPEG is? I'll admit, P, you had me for a second. I'm like, what? What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with what I said, and you know it. Like, but if you wanted to have 3 to 4 launches a year, you need to expand literally every part of manufacturing. SLS, Orion, RS-25, EUS. This is not development money. This is manufacturing. How does the cost go down for that if these need different amounts of budget, space, and time to expand? Actually, they designed scalability into it already. You think NASA's going to launch once a year? Do you really think that? I'm telling you, it was already... Okay. All right. Think about it like this. You're Elon Musk, all right? Not doing SpaceX thing. We're talking Tesla now. Elon Musk wants to make 300,000 cars a year or something ridiculous. What do? Well, 300,000 cars a year in 1 year is that's a little nuts, okay? That's a little nuts. You're not going to hit that mark in 1 year. I mean, Tesla might with how they do things, but that's an exception to the rule. What do? You want to eventually ramp to 300,000 cars a year. So do you try to produce 3,000 cars a year in year 1? No. You've produced 10,000. Produce 10,000. And then maybe ramp that up to 20. And then 30. And then 40. And then 50. And then in 5 years, you ramp up exponentially and you hit your target. Okay? You don't design with the expectation of producing 300,000 cars a year. You don't design a factory that can just produce 10,000. Maximum, at like maximum overdrive. NASA didn't do that. They did not do that. They're smarter than that. And before you say like, I mean, There's no way that they're that short-sighted. I'm sorry, dude. That's not how that works. It's not how that works. If you want to read into what I'm talking about, look at the systems engineering manual. You didn't get too far into that to figure out that they're going to build the assembly lines with scalability in mind. And I'm pretty damn sure that that's what they did with SLS. You know, you say, oh, this is going to be manufactured. Dude, I'm telling you, they already made it. They already made all the stuff. It's already made. What's the difference between, you know, being able to build 2 SLS cores a year versus 3 SLS cores a year? More engines? Why do you think that Aerojet Rocketdyne contract for RS-25Es is so expensive? Think about it, man. No, serious. Everybody knocks that contract. Oh, it's $150 million a pop. Well, I've said multiple times that $150 million a pop for the RS-25E is for the factory. Where do you think that money's going? You think that money's going into someone's pocket? I mean, if you want to be like certain people, yeah, you can think that if you want. But the reality of the situation is that's going into a factory that's designed to be able to quadruple its output of engines over the next 30 years. And probably not even 30, 20, I would guess. What I'm trying to tell you, Bauxy, is part of the reason why SLS carries such a huge price tag right now is because they've developed all this stuff, and they developed it for long-term scalability. Does NASA sound like someone that's going to short-sight their systems engineering? Does that sound... No way, dude. They don't work like that. I'm sorry. They just don't. That's not how that works. That's highly speculative. Oh, my God. I'm saying 2 plus 2 is 4. I'm pretty dang sure, and you're saying, nope, that's highly speculative. What do you want me to do? 2, 2, 4. Right there. But 5 is 5 plus 5, 10? No, that's just your opinion. Would the RS-25 make a good upper stage engine? No, RJ. Why don't we use them on the EUS if possible? The starter motor, the proverbial starter motor for an RS-25 is on the launch pad. It's not on the engine. It's like an SR-71, dude. There's no starter on it to save weight. Mass, if we want to be technical. Can you show me your cup again? Nah, I'm good. There's this one right here. Here, you can see it for a second. It's the 50th anniversary. I've talked to the guy that took this picture, by the way. Did they? Then why is SLS limited to 1 launch per year until the 2020 official SLS source, by the way? Now, that's Space Policy Online. That's Marcia Smith. That's not official SLS. Plus, protecting for an additional SLS flight not associated with gateway buildup and utilization. Okay, so she's quoting a NASA slide. Let me see. Let's see. All right, let me take a look. This is a slide on SLS availability for science. The supply chain part. Production capability of one flight unit a year on average in the 2020s, with plans for the production capability expanding to 2 flights a year until the 2030s. This is availability for science. Wait a minute, when was this tweeted? Hold on. July 7th, 2021. Yeah, on average, man. With plans for the production capability expanding to 2 flights a year until the 2030s. Bauxy, this doesn't prove that they're not going to scale it. This proves that they are going to scale it. What are you talking about? I'm confused. You're confusing me. First of all, that slide is for science missions. So that's talking about missions allocating away from the Artemis program. Don't you think if NASA was going to design, for instance, the Europa Clipper mission alongside SLS production, that they would have taken that into account and added the scalability to it? That doesn't make any sense. I'm confused. Am I not thinking about this correctly? It's not speculative at all. Isn't that how every production cycle works? The more product that comes out, the lower cost per... Yeah, Aries, I'm confused why that's speculation, but I mean, whatever. We can talk about the next thing in space news. I don't understand the point that's trying to be made here. This literally says that they can scale capacity in the 2030s. What do you think? The budget's going to spike because of that? Where do you think the equipment came from? Overlapping budgets. Just like this proves what I was saying. Not the opposite of that. I'm confused. Never knew this was a thing. What's that? Artemis 1 NASA SLS flight batteries stored at 40 degrees Fahrenheit in the flight battery shop of the vehicle assembly building. They will be installed 2 days before final testing of the rocket prior to launch and will take over to the power systems during the final countdown. Cool. I'm not debating scalability. I'm debating whether 4 launches a year is even remotely possible in the 2020s. That was your point. I'll answer that question in a second. You're not debating scalability. You're debating whether the 4 launches a year is even remotely possible in the 2020s. Of course it's possible. Why wouldn't it be? Like, yeah, of course it is. But you understand that those two go hand in hand, right? So you're saying you're not debating scalability, but you're debating scalability. Like, if they can expand it up to 2 flights a year into the 2030s, guys, they can expand it to 2 flights a year in the late 2020s. That's totally possible. Yeah, that's absolutely possible. I mean, see, dude, it's context, man. This is context, because this is availability for science. If they're going to allocate more to the Artemis budget, right? If they're going to allocate more to the Artemis budget, this gets thrown out the window. Anyway, I think it's doable. You don't have to believe me. You could say it's speculative. What do I know? I cited pretty damn specific examples based off of prior space programs, current scalability, and contracts, specifically labeling pricing. Like, I mean, that's fine. It's up to you. Up to you, dudes. Do they ever cover perceived ROI in systems engineering? If they have, I haven't gotten that far. I'm probably not. I mean, there is control. There's budget controls, right? You don't want something spiraling out of control. But NASA's the easy way to say that is that to prevent a budget from spiraling out of control is to make sure you have a set plan. You know? Odd idea. NASA should offer to send a congressman to the moon. That might get the program loads of funding. And you know that Bill Nelson flew into space, right? That was the idea. They tried that in the 80s. The current NASA administrator, dude, he flew into space because they had an idea of sending a congressman into space. Bill Nelson's the only sitting member of Congress that's ever flown into space. Served in Congress before they flew into space. I should say that. New haircut? That's right, tweets. Yep. Mm-hmm. Ah, yes, ballast. I prefer aggregate payload space. Is there any rule that says all Artemis missions are on SLS? Couldn't they go on Starship? They are going on Starship to land on the moon. Starship's part of the Artemis program, homie. Now, John, if what you're talking about is like launching people on Starship, no, there's no provisions for that right now. Could there be in the future? Sure, why not? The only time NASA astronauts are going to set foot on Starship in the near term, stuff can change, is as of right now, as of February 16th, 2022, the only mission that NASA astronauts are going to set foot on any SpaceX Starship paraphernalia is for the human landing system, is for HLS. So like to land on the moon. Has the EUS moved along in development, or do we not know? I haven't seen much on the EUS, RJ. I have seen a lot on the stage adapter for EUS, though. So the EUS is fairing. That'll attach the EUS with a payload bay, Apollo style, to the Orion service module adapter. So I've seen progress on that. I haven't seen much progress on the EUS itself, but I know it passed. Give me 1 second. I think it's at PDR. No, you know what? Hold on 1 second. That's probably better for you than me trying to show you the stupid screen. Or trying to show you the book. So the EUS is somewhere right here. It's in development. It's between the PDR and CDR, from what I understand. The last thing we heard about it, what's that, Forge? The exploration upper stage for NASA Space Launch System passed its CDR on December 21st, 2020. It's designed. It's ready to be built for deep space missions. It's past CDR Novus. Thank you. So, production and testing. If it is past CDR, well, that's good. I forget covering that news. I know we covered that, but so I don't think I ever remember hearing anything about an SIR though. Do you think SpaceX could make a profit from bringing back moon rocks and selling them? That's possible. Maybe. I wouldn't want to do that. I don't think they should do that. But maybe, who knows? Some guy did that on Earth. The guy that invented the pet rock, the guy made $1 million. You know? The EUS had a lot of rough edges in the CDR, and while it was a minimum viable product, it makes sense it's not at SIR. They haven't built one yet. From NASA Spaceflight. What's that? That's on March 4th, 2021, so this was about a year ago. Boeing looking to begin SLS exploration upper stage manufacturing. We start fabrication of the structural test article this summer. Based on current forecast, the STM would be delivered to Marshall at the beginning of 2023, where it would be placed in test stand 4679. The structural test article will be tested at Marshall, and we are scheduled to wrap up testing in October of 2023. So they're making it. They've been doing confidence welding. Let's Technicians are manufacturing and testing the first in a series of digital confidence was in the U.S. This is from February 2021. Okay. Yeah, so they're working on okay, it's not at SIR, right? Because it's not at SIR, that means they're working on how to make that production line and how the manufacturing process is going to go, guys. That's what they're doing. Yeah, they're just basically figuring out the best way to do it and the best way to manufacture what was required under the critical design review. If the test articles started being built last SIR is still like a year out. Yeah. They're basically, see, this is what I mean, fellas. This is what I'm talking about. They're making the factory for it right now. That's what they're doing. They're making the factory for the stupid thing. And if you were going to make the factory, there's just some processes that can be automated like that. If you're going to make the factory, you know that down the road they want scalability. So I would design, and I'm not talking about like deadlines that you see from a stupid article or something. I'm talking about just plain old logic. If I'm going to build a factory that's designed to build rocket stages, wouldn't you want that factory to be scalable in some way, shape, or form? That's just the way industrial engineering works. Systems integration review, Spaceman. How many will they likely design the factory to produce? Oh. Okay, Forge, I'll look at that in a second. Well, RJ, knowing what you know about spaceflight, dude. Okay. Knowing what you know about spaceflight, I'm trying to think of a good analogy here. What would be right? Okay, we'll use the space shuttle. STS-1 just launched, right? So it's 1981, all right? April 12th, 1981. STS-1 just launched. Let's go April 14th when they came back. You know, the tanks for the first two shuttle missions, right, were white, right? And then the other tanks after that were, you know, orange and everything. Not that that really matters. The point is that the main propulsion test article, STS-1 and 2, those tanks were made under a different contract than actually, no, I think it's STS-5 was a different contract. But I could be wrong. I could be misremembering. I'd have to go look. So, okay. You make the first shuttle external tank, right? You make it. Maybe you had a contract to make the first 4 for the orbital flight test. So you had your main propulsion testing article. You had your structural testing article, STS-1, STS-2, STS-3, STS-4. And then the orbital flight test program is over, right? Now, knowing what you know about the shuttle, right? The shuttle is supposed to launch a lot. That's the plan. It's supposed to launch a lot because it's supposed to make low Earth orbit sustainable. That was the idea with the space shuttle. Just like the Artemis missions are supposed to make the moon sustainable, right? If you were going to design a factory, would you design it to make 1 external tank a year from the start, knowing that the whole purpose of this space program is to establish sustainability in space? Would you design the factory to make 1 external tank a year? Hell no. No way. You wouldn't do that from the start. No way. Not a chance. You design it to make they wanted the shuttle to launch. They were projected to be able to launch the shuttle 24 times a year. 2 times every month. So you would want a factory that has the maximum of maybe making 6 or 7 external tanks in parallel, right? For various shuttle missions. At least 6. 6 tanks in various states of progress, right? Why would you design it for 1 a year out of the box? How? You would need skill to be able to bottleneck a production line like that. See what I'm talking about, man? That doesn't make any sense. And it's not NASA's MO. This is why, okay, guys, I get it. I don't really have a particular source for this. And I know that the slides are saying, once a year. I highly doubt that. I think NASA's just saying that because that's their minimum baseline expectation. I honestly say that. And like I said, they built 1 Saturn structural testing article, and then they built a dynamic test article, and then they block bought the Saturn V's, right? Does that mean with the block buy that they bought all the expansion of the factory? No, Michoud already exists. It already existed. They'd already built it up. It was just, and I'm talking like designing the tooling and stuff. You know what I mean? Like this, you pay to design the tooling, you can manufacture another one easily, and then you can increase your production. All that scalability is incorporated into the design from the start. Check out page 38 in the PDF, page 28 in the book, Phase C, if you're curious about CDR and SIR. Cool. Systems Integration Flowchart. The SIR is conducted at the end of the final design phase and before systems assembly, integration, and testing. SIR ensures a system is ready to be integrated. Interfaces have been verified against the interface control documentation. Segments, components, and subsystems are available and ready to be integrated into the subsystem, and they verify that all assembly and integration facilities are ready and available. Think of it in terms of, are we ready to begin assembly and integration of the vehicle? Yeah. It's probably why Boeing came out with that cryo test tank to be like, hey, if we do this now, we could build the same factory, scale it up. Corporate entities don't time stuff for no reason. Nothing's by accident, Bandit. That makes sense. It would make sense for them to just start small, then have plans to expand. Since you don't want to repeat of the shuttle where you make a factory that will never fully be utilized. But I don't know much about how the ET factory worked. The external tank factory is where they built Saturn V first stages, RJ. It's Michoud in Louisiana. They already had the factory made. They just retooled it for external tanks. That's it. Just like they already had the factory made for SLS, and then they retooled it for SLS core stages, right? Now, once again, my problem, and the thing that I've always had a problem with, is that, SLS is, for the first 5 years of SLS, it was kind of just on life, well, not on life support, but that's not the right way to say it. But there was such a huge stopgap in spaceflight capability because they took Ares 1 away that it was more of a perceived thing, right? So remember how I said, the budgets overlap, right? Ares 1's budget was supposed to go up, and then as Ares 1's budget was going down for vehicle development, Ares 5 was supposed to go up. They just got rid of Ares 1 and replaced it with an extremely low-budget commercial orbital transport services, and then changed Ares 5 to SLS, right? And then SLS is pretty much on Ares 5's timescale. And if you go back and look at the original Constellation program deadlines, SLS's deadlines are literally Ares 5's deadlines. They're really close. Ares 5 was supposed to be operational in the early 2020s and get us back to the moon in the mid-2020s. You see what I'm talking about? You never design, an industrial designer wouldn't design something with your baseline expectation. That doesn't make any sense. That's not how industrial engineering works. So you're saying cancel SLS, got it. No, if anything, Ares 5 was supposed to fly in 2020. But it's funny because it's now going to be SLS is going to be 2022. The reason you want to hear another thing? You want to hear another thing funny while we're here? Check this out. Look, I've said this a couple of times, but I'll show. This is cool. Trust me. If we go look at Project Constellation, okay, you look at the rockets that were needed for the Constellation program. So check this out. Remember how I said about overlapping budgets? Well, this is a good place to. This would be a good place to start understanding this, all right? Overlapping budgets. Now, if you're smart, you'll make one budget lead into another. So what does that mean? As the space shuttle funding ramps down, you ramp up Ares 1. Ares 1 is shuttle derived, so you're using parts from the shuttle program. You're using the 5-segment booster. Spray-on foam insulation, aluminum lithium stir welded upper stages. And then the Orion capsule, you'd maybe use some parts from the shuttle for that, but who knows? So some of this stuff is going to need to be new and be developed, right? You're going to need to develop new things, right? So, but a lot of it is derived. So as the shuttle ramps down, you have some overlap and some of the technical expertise and some of the engineering can transfer over. Not all of it. Off-the-shelf components are very hard to come by in spaceflight. So now Ares 1 ramps up. Ares 1 should have been operational by like 2015 or something, right? And then right around 2015, this would have gone back down. So you only have like a couple of years stopgap. Maybe at the worst case scenario, as long as the Apollo-Soyuz test project to SDS-1, right? So maybe 5 years at best, right? Now, 2016, 2017, right when SLS's budget started to go up, Ares 1 development was supposed to get done. But here's the thing. It would have been more expedient than SLS. Why? Overlap. Ares 1 is a test. It's a test vehicle. It's a test vehicle to test components on Ares 5. Ares 1's upper stage has a J2X in it. So does Ares 5's. You would have gotten flight testing here. Flight test data on how to put this thing together. Ares 5 and SLS have the 5-segment SRBs. Ares 1's first stage is just a 5-segment SRB. So the development from Ares 1 would have overlapped into Ares 5, and that would have kept the thing on schedule, instead of trying to build something brand new out of the box, which takes a lot longer. This is why SLS is pretty much on Ares 5's timeline. It's pretty much the same thing, but plus or minus a couple of years, because some of your development didn't get done. So you had to make up for that. Does that make sense? One overlaps into the other. Ares 1 would have led to Ares 5, just like Saturn 1 led to Saturn 5. Same idea. See what I mean? That's part of the reason why SLS is taking so long. You basically took some of your components from the space shuttle, some of them, and you took a rocket, you took some components from a rocket that was in the middle of development, and you combined it with some off-the-shelf components from the most complicated vehicle ever made with no feed. There's no feeder vehicle into it. There's not much overlap. There's not a lot of overlap there. You know what I mean? That's part of the reason why it carries such a heavy price tag. But on the other hand, that heavy price tag is, I think we're past the heavy price tag of, developing the vehicle. Most of SLS has been developed at this point. Price is only going to go down from here. We've already gotten over that hump. You can see the same overlapping budget and flow with Falcon 9, Dragon, Crew Dragon, Starship. Bingo. Even Falcon 1. Falcon 9 1.0 is just 9 Falcon 1s just kind of glued together. Not in terms of tankage, but it's 9 Falcon 1 engines. Just at the bottom of a rocket, bottom of a 3.7 meter core diameter. Exactly. Yeah, feed one into the other. Why do some rockets have that ballistic missile shape on the tip of the nose cone? That's the launch escape system, Mycon. The one with that little point thing is the launch abort system. That means there's people on board. That means it can fly people. Ares 5 was never supposed to fly people. No. Ares 5 would have launched an upper stage and a heavy lunar lander with a HAB module into space, and then they would have launched Ares 1 off the other pad, docked the Orion to the lander, and then the Earth departure stage, that thing that says the USA on it, the EDS would have gone out to the moon, Apollo style. But because you delivered your lander and your third stage on a super heavy launch vehicle, Ares 5, because you delivered it on a super heavy launch vehicle and then sent the people up separately, Ares 5 was enough to deliver an SSTO, or, well, not an SSTO. You could SSTO with the lander that they were designing. The lander was called Altair. You could SSTO with it. It was 2-stage, to be fair. But it had a much heavier down mass capacity to the moon than the LEM did. The Altair lander was bigger than the LEM. 2 stages of the LEM. The descent module for that lander was gigantic. So you guys know about how big the Orion capsule is. The Orion's a big capsule. Check it out. Of course, I found the potato image. Orion's a big capsule. Look at how big that lander is. The Altair lander would have been used to land heavy cargo down on the surface of the moon. Oh, yeah. See last, please. Don't forget the human factor. You have a constant team of engineers. You don't waste time building teams in operation. Yep. Yeah, it's not just the engineering that moves over. It's the personnel as well. One of the other reasons why SLS has seemingly taken so long is because there was no Ares 1, because they canceled it. All the personnel from the shuttle program that would have been used to easily been able to put an Ares 1 stack together, yeah, they fired all those people. Yeah, they got rid of them. They didn't keep the personnel because they didn't want to keep the personnel on the books until Ares 5 came around in 10 years. That makes no sense. That's literally 10 years of them doing nothing. So they canned all of them. Yeah, why do you think Project Constellation and what happened haunts me every day? Why do you think I always make it a thing to talk about it? Because it's not good. It's not good. They laid off like 5,000 people from KSC the day after STS-135 landed. No joke. Why do some rockets have that? All right, I answered that. And there was a good 4 to 5 years where the factory wasn't in use because they didn't have a design. Yeah, Novus, there you go. Sorry, yeah. I mean, Novus answered your question, Orion. He knows more about this than I do, so I would listen to him. But yeah, I said the same thing. Well, that's good. Man, if I had said something different, Novus, I would have looked pretty stupid. But then again, I kind of am stupid, so it kind of works out. Nice, Tessa, the John Deere tractor. Nerd, it's like when I was building my steel smelting in the latest Satisfactory game, I built it to max it out. Yeah, exactly. You always build for scale. You always build the theoretical maximum. Hey, Russell, thank you for the bits. I appreciate it. Is Ares 5 really that much bigger than SLS, or are they roughly the same size? It's just a little bit bigger. Ares 5 would have been about the size of a Starship stack, RJ. It has way more thrust because it has 5 RS-68s in the first stage. That's way more thrust than 4 shuttle engines. Because you had such a high TWR on your core stage and you have such a high TWR EDS, your payload capacity to the moon was way higher than SLS would ever be, even with the EUS. Now that has a trade-off, just like everything else. Ares 5 was specifically designed to send stuff out to the moon. And then later it would have been adapted to be able to build huge transfer vehicles in low Earth orbit which was the third phase of Constellation. So because they had such high TWR from these stages, the payload capacity to the moon was insane, but the payload capacity to Mars kind of sucked, which is why it was designed to build transfer vehicles instead. SLS is much more suited to being able to shoot a payload pretty much anywhere. Yeah, I've shown you SLS documentation about where it could send stuff. You could send probes to Pluto, no problem. And I'm not talking like something that flies by either. SLS has the Delta V to be able to push ridiculous things to ridiculous places in the solar system. Yeah. Pretty damn good. Do you think Elon would sell starships to the DoD? He's working with the United States Transportation Command to be able to move supplies around, John, via starship. Yes, I do. So, yeah, I mean, it's not just the engineering, it's a brain drain. And that's why I always say that getting rid of Constellation really it didn't just set us back the amount of time that it's taken to get this stack made. You probably put us like 20 years behind schedule in the long term. Like, where would we be right now if Constellation even had gone, even with like kind of a crappy, like, I'm talking like bare minimum viable product, where would we be? Well, NASA would be launching Ares 1 at the very least. At the very least, we'd have Ares 1 right now on top of Falcon 9. So Orion would have gotten flight time, and they would have been able to iron out the, capsule components. So we would at least know that the capsule is really good from flying it to the ISS. And it probably would have handed over ISS rotation capabilities to commercial partners in around 2020. Yeah, 2019, 2020. Yeah, that's when it was supposed to do that. That's the other thing. Project Constellation had a little program attached to it from the start called the Commercial Crew Program. A lot of people know about that one nowadays. And Orion was supposed to hand over ISS rotation duties to commercial partners with manned spacecraft right? With their own in-house manned spacecraft sometime in the late 20-teens, early 2020s. When did DM2 fly again? Oh, yeah. Oops. That was always the plan. Hey, Snow Crash, what's up? I haven't gotten around to shooting you an email, dude. I'm sorry about that. I've been super busy with other things. But I will do it, I swear. How you doing, buddy? How would they get around the parachute issues in case of an abort on Ares 1, burned through from SRB exhaust? Don't launch when it's windy. Ian, I always thought that Air Force technical report about the chutes going through the SRB exhaust to be a little ridiculous. And I'm not saying that the Air Force is wrong. I'm saying what the right way to say that is that Ares 1 was under development. It was under development. Can you imagine if Falcon 9 if they'd frozen development like after Ammo 6, for instance? Do you think people would even think reusability is viable at all? No. The vehicle's under development, man. It takes time to hone this process. To imply that Ares 1's a death trap because the Air Force said it was, because it could have, in this one particular scenario where it launches in the right wind conditions, the parachute, launch escape system, the conditions for recovery and launch escape could go down, and you could have a blackout in the abort. Okay, so don't launch it when it's windy. Don't launch it in those wind conditions then. How is that different than any other rocket? Am I right? Like, am I thinking about that correctly? Hey, Jack! Constellation still holds a special place in your heart. Good. We learned that lesson in 1980. Yeah, exactly, Panther. Don't launch when it's windy. Design reviews always grasp for straws to criticize the design. Lawmakers panic. Yep. Yeah. It's true. Yeah, that's what happened, Prey. I mean, and then there was the problem with SRB vibrations. But NASA was already developing an interstage damping device. Not dampening, it's not getting wet. NASA was already developing an interstage damping device to be able to combat the SRB vibrations. And the reality of the situation is that Ares 1 was an open book. It was an open book that we stopped reading. So you never knew the punchline. Had you finished the book, right, we would know. It would be operational. Dudes, people say, oh, it would have been death of the SRBs, da-da-da. Do you honestly think that anybody at NASA would have considered launching someone on an SRB in the wake of the space shuttle program and not think it was safe? Does that make any sense? Why would you do that? After Columbia, because that's what made Project Constellation. STS-107 breaking up basically gave NASA an excuse to be like, no, we can't use this anymore. Let's go back to doing pods. Let's go back to going back to the moon, etc., etc. That's basically it. Do you think anybody would have let them baseline an SRB first stage lifter if they weren't 100% sure that it was going to be okay? Not if your military mindset is focused on rockets designed to launch in all conditions. Yeah, Ryan, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, okay, so why would you want to be able to launch in all conditions? Just wait 24 hours, right? We know you want a death stick to fly. It's not a death stick. It's Ares 1, and it's one of the best launch vehicles ever designed. It's just a shame that it never flew. Have you seen this? Let's go back to looking at the pictures. Boom. NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory suffers camera glitch, stalling science. Oh no. The Space Telescope is expected to resume normal operation with a different instrument by early next week. That's fine. They'll probably fix it, guys. Sometimes it's just shut the satellite off and turn it back on. Or, well, not the whole satellite. You don't want to do that. It'll break. Just shut a little bit of it off. Shut components off and turn it back on. SpaceX has filed for 2 back-to-back Dragon missions, Crew 4 in mid-April, followed by CRS-25. That means all IDAs are blocked for the entirety of May till June. Sad Starliner noises. You think they're doing that on purpose, Forge? We could sort of still do Ares 1 again. Just dust off the Omega plans and put an Orion or more likely a Starliner on top. Synerd, I firmly believe, okay, and people are going to do this again. They're going to be like, nah, I don't think it's going to happen. All right. Mobile Launcher 1 was designed for Ares 1, and there's SLS Block 1 sitting on it. I firmly believe, and this one I have no way to prove. This one is a little bit of a stretch. It's kind of more of what I want to see, or what I would like to see. I want to see 2 mobile launchers made for SLS Block 1 that could be changed to Block 2 with relatively not much, wouldn't take much. 2 new mobile launchers, and then you have your SLS Block 1 launcher. I want that converted for Omega. Yeah, there, I said it. Converted for Omega, and put an ICPS on top of like a 4-segment stack. Converted for Omega. You already have the BOLE program for SLS, right? So by Artemis 9, that mobile launcher will either A, have been retooled for SLS Block 1B, in which case you need to take the whole thing apart. And if you need to take the whole thing apart, why don't you just build a new one? It's going to be more expensive to take it apart than it is to build a new one. So what you could do is take it partially apart and then retool it for Omega. Now, why do I think this? Well, SLS's stated goals in the Moon to Mars program, which is basically an Artemis applications program, which is a real NASA program. It is on the books. It was basically established in 2018. It's basically designed to figure out what they want to do with SLS after the Artemis program. What are you going to do after that? And that program calls for nuclear-powered transfer stages to be sent into orbit by a heavy lifter. So what are you going to do? Are you going to send SLS up just to get people to these nuclear transfer stages? No, you're going to need a way to get Orion into low Earth orbit that's not on a super heavy launch vehicle. And you have that extra mobile launcher lying around. And you have the BOLE boosters from the Artemis program, the composite casing boosters, which are Omega boosters. And then you have Omega's design. That rocket's literally been designed. And the boosters will have flight data behind them. It makes sense. I mean, I'm not sure how much sense it makes, but, and I don't, like, for what it's worth, that's what EJ wants. I don't think that's going to happen, but it would be a cool idea. A trebuchet? Yes, that too. But anyway. Or with luck, just launch Orion on a non-crew rated vehicle and send the crew up via Starship at that point. That could be another scenario. I don't want to read about Forge. I'm going to read about the whatever's going on with Aerojet. I'm going to do that on my own time. I'm looking around to make sure that I got through everything. Repost. Starship question. Will Starship always land on 2 engines like shown in the GIF above? I think that's the tentative plan, but SpaceX's engineering is always in flux, so I don't know. Could be 1 engine, could be 3 engines, could be 6 engines. I have no idea, dude. Yeah, yes. There's the thing with Firefly. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I've always kind of questioned the viability of lugging a capsule around with your transfer vehicle. I get that Orion acts as the bridge, but what benefits does it serve other than a taxi to low Mars orbit in a lander? Lifeboat. Pigsing. It's a lifeboat. Apollo 13. It's a lifeboat. Yeah. It's not so much about lugging the capsule around with you. It's much more about having redundant ECLS, redundant life support systems. Yeah. Lugging the capsule around with you does mean you're moving around a lot of extra mass, but it also means that you have 2 independent life support systems in case the poop hits the fan. Yeah. They learned that from Apollo 13. Does that make sense? Yeah, you always want two-fault redundant life support systems is like the industry standard because of Apollo 13. But see, here's the thing. You're developing two-fault redundant life support systems, and those life support systems need to be able to commingle. Commingle? They need to be able to work with each other. You need to have standardized fittings, and they need to, like, if you want to transfer the O2 from one to the other, NASA, I'm pretty sure there's a system standard out there somewhere where it says that your two-fault redundant life support system, they have to be kind of wired in parallel, so to speak. I guess that's the right way to say it. So they can work with each other because one of the problems, if something goes wrong, because one of the problems that they had during Apollo 13 is that the LEM had a life support system. It had ECLIS on it, obviously. And then the CSM had ECLIS on it. And they were different fittings. This one is like 3/8 of an inch. This is 1/2 inch fittings. So they weren't compatible with each other. And that's why what Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes, what they had to do was like make something to make the life support systems work together. They had to MacGyver a life support system together. Yeah, there's very, very, very strict fitting standards for NASA. Oh yeah, that's all over the place. So yeah, you lug the capsule along with you so you have redundant life support. Yeah, there you go, Synerd. No square pegs in the round hole. That literally happened, and it almost killed the Apollo 13 crew. TLDR, half of the Aerojet board wanted to join Lockheed, the other half didn't. Now the company must be bought by an investment firm. Ew. Will Lunar Starship need 6 engines or just the 3 in the vacuum? It depends on how much cargo you're hauling, John. Think about it like RPMs on a car. You know, you're lugging an extra 1,000 pounds of whatever around, right? The car's going to need to work harder. Same idea. So it really depends. I know you're retooling, taking a break from mission mode, but I was wondering how that's going. RJ, why do you think I've been so into the systems engineering handbook? Because I'm using the systems engineering handbook to engineer my new architecture, to make sure there's no surprises, no rockets exploding on the pad, no, rockets not making it to orbit because I forgot what the standard was for payload capacity. Oh yeah, no, I'm working on it. There's a reason why I have the systems engineering handbook and my little blue notebook. Yeah, right next to each other. Most of them are blank because I bought a new notebook. Just some vehicle architecture stuff there. Just some notes. Some notes on things. Oh yeah. I'm developing the entire architecture on paper. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. This is what I say to do all the time, and how to implement a really healthy space program. That's what I'm going to do in KSP with my new architecture. You guys choose where the mission goes. I'm going to make an architecture that's flexible enough to be able to send whatever, wherever. Crew, uncrewed, whatever. No problem. Promise no more explosions in KSP? Nothing is certain, Da Vinci. I'm not sure what that is, Young July, but... You hear that ULA is going on strike. I did read about it, Pop. I don't want to talk about that. Yeah. I don't want to talk about the reasons, man. Don't make me do that. Please don't make me do that. Here, look at this picture instead. Hello. Can you link the book you're using? Sure. NASA Systems Engineering Handbook. Now, Joe, once again, it's NASA. So you could buy you could buy a hard copy. Like I have, or you could just get the PDF right here. Now, I warn you, this is really, okay, all right, extreme nerd warning. extreme nerd warning here. This is really in-depth stuff. This is NASA's Systems Engineering Handbook. This is how they build their space program. It's the kind of standards. It's a set of standards for implementing spaceflight. Yeah. Stakeholder concepts. Yeah, it's in chat. Trust me, it's cool, but it's real nerd stuff. Like, this is really nerd stuff. But I've been citing it a lot on stream, and the more I read about systems engineering, the more Constellation makes a whole ton of sense, and it also makes the SLS program make a lot of sense too. Why do you think? Like, that's why when I say I think this is what's going on, that's mostly where my sourcing is from. It's from the systems engineering interpretation of the Systems Engineering Handbook. Like, designing, like, that thing talks about, it talks about scalability. It talks about, how you don't design it to launch once a year. You design it to launch like 6 times a year. You take your theoretical maximum and you start to build the tooling for that. That book talks all about that. How you procure stuff, block buying things, CDRs, SIRs, preliminary design reviews, testing, operations, disposal, the PRR, or the disposal review. Like, it talks about the entire operations life cycle of a program. Yeah, and I'm doing that in KSP. Yeah, we're gonna do that in KSP. Don't get me wrong, we're continuing the same mission mode. It's the same old mission mode, guys. It's the same save. So, like, Jeb's still dead, for instance, in this save, and the SSTO program still existed in this save. I'm just continuing the same save. I'm just doing it with the architecture that I wanted to make. And Kem, I think you're right. I saw what you said while I was talking. Now letting chat decide how the rocket should work is a good idea. Let us choose payloads in future missions. Bingo. That's the one thing that I'm going to change. You guys could still choose the destination. I'm choosing the ride. Don't cover ULA news. There's an update and involves a lot of nasty news, and Rule 8 is in it. Can you link me, Forge, so I can read it off stream? I'm not doing that on stream. Anyway, there seems to be an update about Firefly, but let me read this before we share it. I have to kind of check it.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Would they put 6 vacuum optimized maybe? That's what they plan on doing, John. Starship is going to have 6 engines. 6 vacuum engines, 3 sea level. You need the 3 sea level for landing back down. They need the 6 vacuum. My guess is for TWR, so they could hit that 100-ton mark. Either that, or they're baselining Starship at 100 tons. And those other engines, having 6 vacuum engines, will give you better LEO performance. You'll be able to move bigger payloads into LEO before Starship falls back down if the payload's too heavy. Hey, Aardvark, 75-month resub. Whew, done a lot of talking today. You going to let us choose the deadline still? No, not really. Well, maybe you could choose like the final deadline, like the deadline for the entire program, and I'll scale to that. But yeah. Does this plan include a specific star and Raker specifically in that order? No. Nope. The vacuum engines don't gimbal, and it's just the landing engines. On both Starship and Super Heavy, the inner sets of engines are what gimbal, and the outer sets of engines on Raptor, they're called RB engines, right? Raptor booster engines. Those are fixed. And then on Starship, the vacuum engines are fixed as well. At least that's the tentative plan as of February 16, 2022. Who knows? Elon could put a banana on the front and make it a unicorn Starship tomorrow, for all I know. Banana Starship. I was wondering if they'll put the sea level stuff on the lunar. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't really make a lot of sense that they would, John, but who knows? So you could choose a deadline for 2 years, for example. I don't know, Chief. I haven't really thought about how we're going to implement deadline stuff. I'm really thinking more about the systems engineering architecture and basically being able to make the program handle whatever you throw at me. Does Super Heavy use asymmetric thrust to assist the center and gimbaling engines? I don't think you need asymmetric thrust, Cynerd, when you have 15 degrees of gimbal. I don't think so. It might. I don't know. Maybe. Are you basing your new rocket architecture on a real concept like the SSTO, or is it your own designs? Hybrid. King Kitten, 71-month resub. Thank you. So chat decides the mission. The program, Cientic. So chat says go to the moon. Right? You guys are the stakeholder. If you read the systems engineering thing, you come up with stakeholder expectations. I'm basically designing an architecture to have variable stakeholder expectations. Long story short, I basically took the stakeholder expectations and basically cut them down to what would be the bare minimum necessity here. So if I have a rocket, right? If you guys say, oh, I want you to send a lander to the moon. I'll make a rocket that can move a lander. You know, I have a rocket. And where's minimum viable there? You want to send something to the moon. Well, there's no real opportunity to refuel until you get on orbit. So, and this isn't what I'm doing. I'm just giving you an example. It's minimum stakeholder expectations. So you guys want, say you guys want me to send a probe to the moon, right? We send a probe to the moon. The minimum viable is something that gets to low Earth orbit and refuels. So a small vehicle that refuels multiple times. Or I make a big vehicle that sends it in one shot. But if you make a big vehicle that sends it in one shot, you're tailoring that vehicle to be able to get stuff to the surface of the moon. You don't necessarily want to do that. Okay? You don't necessarily want to make that happen. You want to design the vehicle. If I was going to build a big vehicle, I would build it to be able to do anything. It could send anything anywhere. Not just a viable avenue for the moon, but a viable avenue to anywhere in the solar system. Right? So I basically have minimum stakeholder expectations to be able to move, basically do whatever mission I need. So like at the bare minimum, say you guys go, oh, I want you to send crew to Duna. Okay. I'll have the architecture to be able to get the crew up there and to be able to get cargo up there, big cargo up there, small cargo, whatever. And I'll be able to figure out, the avenue for them to get to Duna based off of, like, say I build the Copernicus, the MTV, the Martian Transfer Vehicle. Like, once again, this is not necessarily what I'm doing. I'm just making stuff up. Say you wanted me to do Constellation or something, and you wanted me to build the Mars Transfer Vehicle. All I would have to do is engineer the transfer vehicle and the lander. The rockets would already be made. Basically, I'm designing architecture that's able to get me to go anywhere I want. So we're updating the mission mode rules. Guys, I'll answer more questions on Kerbal when I have this more fleshed out. Honestly, I'm not in for 100 questions about this, Chief, right now, because I don't know the answer to these questions, and I'm not going to say something off the cuff. Cool. I just needed to read something. Yeah, I haven't gotten it all figured out, Chief. So yeah, let me take a look. What's this next news about Firefly? Let me see. Okay. I'm giving up for $1 consideration of my 58% stake in Firefly to my co-founder and partner, Tom. Dear CFIUS, Air Force and 23 Agency of the USA who betrayed me and judged me in your actions for the past 15 months. I hope now you're happy. History will judge all you guys. Max, love Ukraine, and yes, I have a Ukrainian passport and I am a founder of Firefly. Bye, my bird. At the end of the days, I am proud for what I've done for my land, soul, and heritage. Oh. Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that that's probably not what's going on. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that that's probably not what's happening. I doubt he would sell his shares like that, dude. That's $1.58 stake to co-founder. That's I don't think that's what's going down. I don't think that's going down that way. I'd be very surprised if that's how that's literally millions of dollars. There's no way that's going to happen. You're getting screwed by the U.S. State Department. You're going to try to get a return on investment. There's no way that's what's going on, guys. He didn't do it for fun, that's for sure. Bingo. Where's the link to that status? It's strange that it's just a screenshot. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to say that's, okay, Facebook post. Guys, that doesn't jive right in my head. That really doesn't. One, he's gonna sell his stake in the company, 58% stake, controlling interest stake in the company for $1. No way. There's no way. That's. Maybe Max is pissed, and he rightfully so. Rightfully so. Yeah. ITER is a problem. I'm not saying that it isn't Total Staples. The fact that, they basically said, it's a conflict of interest. You can't do it because of international trafficking of arms, right? And your company can't bid on contracts because you're a foreign national that's investing in this company. I mean, once again, that's what I mean by screwing them. The U.S. State Department basically said Firefly can't bid on defense contracts, and Max was they said that Max needs to leave the company. They can't have a foreign vested interest in a company that's going to bid on state contracts. I get that. I understand. I get it. So they're kind of screwing him right there, How about Rocket Lab then? Yeah, I don't know, Kem. This whole thing doesn't make any sense, dude. That's what I mean. This doesn't make sense. This is just adding up more and more to not making more sense. This makes no sense. And this is the added thing that makes it even make less sense. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that?
Go and throttle up.
He already sold the stake last summer, so he got money. Yeah, goalie. Very interesting. I mean, Peter Beck must be a naturalized American, Kem, and Rocket Lab is headquartered in the U.S., but yeah, I don't understand how Firefly would be any different. I don't know. This whole... Dude, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, like, how... Peter Beck is... Maybe he's a naturalized American, and maybe Max isn't. I mean, that means something over here if you have a U.S. passport as opposed to not, especially if you're a business investor. Like... It's like how the Ministry of Defense, Kem, wouldn't have SpaceX bid on a contract to launch a satellite. There's no freaking way that's happening. You know what I mean? I don't know, dude. This whole thing doesn't make a lot of sense. And, I think it's like a little out of my purview, to be honest. All I want to say is that it really doesn't make sense. I don't really understand what's going on here except for the contract thing, but... Doesn't the benefits here outweigh that he is from another country? I don't know, RJ. Maybe. I doubt it, goalie. Yeah, the whole thing just doesn't make a whole lick of sense. Something weird's going on here, dude. Could he have He could have 2 passports, though. I doubt he can live in the U.S. with just a visa. Yeah, we'd have to look at how Rocket Lab is set up to bid on contracts, Chem, versus Firefly, dude. I don't know. All I know is that this... Yeah, something doesn't make sense here. We're not getting all the story, dude. And if it's one thing, so first of all, look who tweeted it. Second of all, look, I'm not gonna weigh in on stuff I don't know about. I'm serious about that. Now, like NASA systems engineering and stuff, I'll weigh in on that all day because I'm pretty damn good at it. This, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what's going on here, and frankly, I don't want to know. Like, I don't want to know what's going on here. Yeah, I don't know, and I don't want to know. Like, something strange. That's very weird. Because look, my one thing is that with aerospace engineering, it doesn't matter if it's the company or whatever, with anything that's associated with aerospace engineering, like the funding for the company structure, how they implement things, there's always a reason. Like, there's always a very logical step that gets you to that kind of train of thought. Now with this, I don't understand what's happening here. And when I say I don't understand, I mean that. I really don't get it. I don't understand what any of this means. Mike Sheets tweeted about it too. I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know. And I'll be 100% real with you if I'm going to be super candid, fellas. I don't want to weigh in on anything that has to do with the Ukraine right now, or Russia, for that matter, except if it's covering what Roscosmos is doing. I'm not weighing in on anything like that, because you know what? I know dick about what's going on over there. I know nothing. I know nothing. No, seriously, I'm not doing that. I don't know what's going on, and I'll just stick to the stuff that I do know. Like, it's not a bad thing to say you don't know. Okay? In fact, that's a pretty big sign of maturity in this day and age. So, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there, dudes. I don't know. It's weird, but it doesn't make sense. There's no logical train of thought that gets you to that point of Max being like, screw this, I'm out. You know what I mean? Multi-millionaires don't go and whine about stuff like this on Facebook. We wouldn't do that on Facebook. That's not how that works. If it's one thing that I've noticed is that millionaires either stay quiet or they crap post about things on the internet. Or is it the billionaires that crap post about things? I think Elon's crap posting, Chem. I'll maintain that to this day. He just likes stirring the pot. It's just being that guy. That's what he likes doing. Under ITAR, State Department has to approve all non-U.S. persons. Yeah, Staples. See, that's what I mean, dude. It's something going on with ITAR there that I fully don't understand, and like clearly there's something going wrong with getting the right deal here, etc., etc. Like there's something that we're not being told. Like there's not enough puzzle pieces to say conclusively what's happening. I find it ironic that we have interest in the moon while we have world tensions high between the U.S. and Russia. Kind of reminiscent of what we were when we were last on the moon. Causation does equal correlation, Jackery. Long story. What does that mean? I guess maybe not. That's probably not the right way to say that. History doesn't repeat; it rhymes. So, like, just because the world is super, everybody's like, whoo, right now, doesn't necessarily mean that means we're going to get a space race. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we're going to go back to the moon, and if the world tensions are higher, that's not really how that works. It's not correlated. We built the ISS during one of the most peaceful times in existence. We built the International Space Station, and that's a huge feat. You know what I mean? That's a really awesome endeavor that we're. See what I did there? That we're doing. Nah, I don't think that. I don't think so, but I don't know. Could be wrong. Remember, New Zealand is part of Five Eyes. Yeah. Not commenting on what's going on, but a bad side effect of that crisis, electricity prices in Europe have quadrupled. Oh, lovely. Like, you know, just while we're here, I've never understood people saying, like, oh, you know, China will land on the moon and then the U.S. will be there in, like, a week. No. Not really. I don't think that's gonna work that way. If that was the case, we would already have our own space station right now to compete with China's. Oh wait, we kind of do, and it's way bigger than theirs. But it's not going to work that way. You know why it's not going to work that way? Because we're not as odds with China as we were with the Soviet Union. It's just not. That's not how that works. And even when we were at odds with the Soviet Union, we still did the Apollo-Soyuz test project. So it's different. History doesn't repeat; it rhymes. So Jackery, you know, I don't think that's a correlation thing. I think that's just kind of a coincidence that it's all happening, you know, same time, you know. Who gives a crap about going to the moon anymore? Mars is the move. Why, Zodiac? Why? Because I disagree. I'm just interested in what your reasoning behind that. You say we should go to Mars first before going to the moon. Why would we do that? Interesting. ¿Por qué no los dos? The moon has some valuable resources on it, right? Well, what I like to tell people, App State, is that, you know, if you want to go camping, right, you don't drive yourself out hundreds of miles away with no camping experience, right? And then go camp in the middle of Yellowstone National Forest or something. What would be a good place to start? I don't know, camp in your backyard? Figure out how to do it there? I don't know, maybe go to your local forest and then camp there? And then maybe go on an overlanding expedition in the middle of a national forest where you're hundreds of miles away and at least you know what you're doing. You see the analogy? Your backyard is Leo, low Earth orbit. Camping out in the woods near your house, well, that's the moon. Going camping deep into the forest, that's Mars. The moon is boring, bro. It's literally a rock. Chat, you see that guy? That guy doesn't know a damn thing about spaceflight. See that guy right there? Yeah, no, he has no idea what he's talking about. See that? Yeah. You don't. Anyway, I'm going to keep going with the space news. Okay, let's see what we got here. FCC space licenses. No, not you, App State. The other guy. License granted. Space Exploration Technologies Corporation. SpaceX from March 1st, 2022 to September 1st, 2022. Purpose: experimental orbital demo and recovery test of the Starship test vehicle from Boca Chica. It's not just a boulder, it's a rock. Let's see. Oh, bomber jets. Oh boy. Yeah, let's see. Experimental orbital demo and recovery test of the Starship vehicle from Boca Chica. This special temporary authority extends the information in previous grant 1847 EXST 2021 and is necessary to authorize Starship test vehicle communications from the launch pad at Boca Chica and the experimental recovery operation following the Starship test vehicle demo launch. Trajectory data will be provided directly to the NTIA, USAF, and NASA. Launch Licensing Authority is the Federal Aviation Administration Office of Commercial Space Transportation. Scroll down. Just a note, this is not the FAA launch license. Oh, I know, Mars resident. Yeah, FCC is not the FAA. This permit is related to the transmission of radio telemetry from the orbital Starship demo flight. The FAA's environmental review continues, and an update is expected around March 28th. Yeah, no, this isn't, it's not bingo. It's not. However, some of you guys already noticed it in chat. Experimental orbital demo and recovery test. Interesting. The last time we heard anything about FCC or anything about Starship's orbital flight test. Hey, Lunchbox guy, thanks for the gifted sub. I appreciate it. The last time we heard anything about the experimental orbital demo and recovery test, the experimental orbital demo of Starship, it did not include a recovery test. So guys, he's trolling. He's trolling. Ignore him. That's what I'm doing. Like, it's pretty damn obvious. You're either trolling or you have no idea what you're saying. It's probably both. Anyway, so recovery test, huh? I wonder what they're trying to recover. I mean, guys, I'll be honest. I said something like this a couple of, I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 months ago in a Space News, if I'm remembering right. What I said was, guys, I wouldn't be surprised if by the time SpaceX gets, clearance to launch from Boca Chica, whenever that may be, at the very least, it's net March 28th, right? Net is no earlier than. Hey, thanks for the bits, paper. Right on. I said that, that they filed that, orbital flight test with, Starship, and they were going to yeet Starship into the water, and Super Heavy was going to do a propulsive landing out in the ocean and then blow itself up basically right when it goes into the water, or just sink to the bottom, right? And then Starship would land out in Hawaii, right? And it would basically do a flip and burn and then hover over the water and then plunge right in and sink, right? I said that because of the long period of time, right? And the fact that the pad is pretty much almost finished, my thought at the time was that the catch mechanism wouldn't be tested by then, by the time Starship is good to go. Now keep in mind, this was before the FAA stuff went down. And this was back in July of 2021. Like, oh, they're probably going to launch it, and then they'll figure out the catch mechanism later. Now that the catch mechanism is working, we don't know the catch mechanism is working. Now that the chopsticks are working, I've kind of theorized that, they might try to get one of these things back. I thought it would have been Super Heavy. And it's very clear that this new FCC application does include a recovery test. What is it recovering? Don't know. But it basically proves what I always say about SpaceX. Their schedule's always in flux. An orbital flight test that would expend the booster in Starship might turn into a full recovery mission down the road. We don't know. It is cool that the FCC is like, yeah, we good. That's pretty sweet. thousands of pieces of what was Starship. I mean, serious. let's be real here, dude. They could try to land it. They could try to land it, and that still could be the result, regardless of your recovery test. So, I mean, you're not wrong. Hey, Ren, how's my day been? It's been all right. It's been all right. It's been good. Off topic, but I need to know, what's your favorite sandwich? Does meatball sub count? Or are we talking about like cold sandwiches, like something that you can make in your kitchen? Well, I mean, not that you can't make a meatball sub in your kitchen. I'm talking like a PB&J. Gif peanut butter. It's Jif peanut butter. Gif is the name of this. Why do you ask, Dip? You hungry? Dude, if you're hungry and you're hankering for something, here's what you should do, okay? Here's what you should do. Get a steak and cheese. Go to a sub shop. Get a steak and cheese, okay? Get a steak and cheese. And have them, you could put peppers on it. You could put peppers, you could put onions, you could put mushrooms on it. I personally don't like mushrooms on steak and cheese, which is weird because I don't mind it on pizza. That's one of those things. I don't know. Get a steak and cheese, onions, peppers, and bacon. Trust me on this one. Have them put bacon strips on the sides of the hoagie and then put the steak and cheese. So like cheese and then bacon. Toast the roll so the bacon melts into the cheese and then put the shaved steak on top of that. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, trust me. Do that. It is delicious. Because the bacon melts into the cheese, and if you toast the roll, the bacon starts, not grilling a little bit. You basically bake the bacon. If you bake the bacon into the cheese on the sub and then put steak and cheese on it with onions and peppers, legendary. It's delicious. Trust me on that one. Bacon's gonna start doing bacon things, indeed. Yeah, dipstick. Why was that your question? What should you eat? I'll always have an answer for you, man. Yeah, the caramelization. That's it, Dev. Yeah, bingo. Yeah, you get that caramelized bacon thing going on. Trust me, it's really freaking good. Add diced onions to that. Caramelized would be better. Well, God, what I do if I'm making a steak and cheese is I throw the steak and the raw onions onto the griddle with peppers. And then I cook the steak, the onions, and the peppers with tongs going ching, 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 ching. You know, at least that's how I was taught to when I worked in the restaurant, right? Just grill it all together. That way, all the flavor from the onions seeps into the steak. You know, it's delicious. It's freaking delicious. Is pineapple good on pizza? I don't care. You choose whatever makes you happy. Did you happen to see the Ferrari leak earlier? I did, Ren. It's pretty. These new cars are very pretty. Personally, I like the Williams. I think the Williams looks beautiful. Stop making you hungry at 3 a.m.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Stop. Stop. Okay, yeah, you're probably right. I couldn't think of anything. Just sure. If you fold a pizza in half, is it a taco? No, calzone. Oh gosh, I'm doing it again. Torlap 55. This has been Rocket Recipes with EJ. Join us next week where we learn how to perfectly cook a roast with an RL10. Okay, now I'm hungry. It's 6 p.m. where you're at. All right, so go get food. Do you think they could make an RL10 run on Methalox? Wasn't that sort of the plan for Altier's landing stage? Yeah. Expander cycles you could. I don't know about an RL10 signer, but yeah, you probably could. You could make an expander cycle Methalox engine. I don't know about making an RL10 do it out of the box. That would be weird. You'd have to do some modifications, man. It would be like if you took a diesel engine and tried to make it run on gasoline. Like, yeah, you could. You'd need like a carburetor or something, and then where the injectors are, you could put the spark plug instead, I suppose. And yeah, I suppose that would work, but you'd need to find a way to get the timing right, so you'd need a cam angle sensor and a crank angle sensor. But that's, you could retrofit that. It's doable. Garage 54 did it one time. Yeah, Signerd, hell yeah. But yeah, long story short, yeah, of course you could. With enough modifications, you can make pigs fly. I mean, anything will fly with a jet engine strapped to the back. A big enough jet engine. What? That's not wrong. Joe Barnard made a Christmas tree fly, okay? He made a Christmas tree fly. You ever play Re-Entry? I've never played it on streams, Osborne, but I could. Yeah, I like games like that. Pineapple on pizza, guys, doesn't taste bad. It really doesn't. I just wouldn't go seek it out. I think deli meats on pizza much more delicious. Anything can get to space with a big enough engine. Indeed. We made rockets out of porta potties. Do you think the Roton rocket could have worked? Sure. Yeah. Auto rotation? Sure, Rady. Yeah, why not? Like I said, man. And I teach like basic engineering concepts here, like basically like 7th grade engineering class, right? And maybe a little bit higher than that from time to time. One thing that I try to teach people about engineering is that anything can work. Sure, as long as you're not breaking any laws of physics, like, and even then, like, there's string theory and quantum mechanics and all this other stuff that I really don't understand. Like, yeah, the Roton could have worked. Sure. Yeah, why wouldn't it? What law of physics does it break? Nothing. Yeah, of course you can make that work. You can make anything work. You can make any. You can generate any type of work that you want. The key to understand with engineering is that it's application based. You know, there's a saying that bridge engineers use, right? That civil engineers use when it comes to making bridges. And the thing is like anybody can make a bridge stand up. Anyone can do that. A good engineer can make a bridge barely stand up. You know what I mean? Like, implying that you take a difficult concept and you reduce it to the simplest that it possibly can be. So Roton doesn't really break any particular law of physics that I'm aware of. It's actually a really good idea. Yeah, that's a really interesting way to look at it. Auto rotation. Yeah, an auto rotation landing system. That's pretty smart, actually. Yeah, it's a really smart thing to do. That mechanism would have been complicated, but it wouldn't have been impossible. Do you see this on the screen? In an alternative universe, Radii, that is, you're asking me, is Starship theoretically possible and the Roton flies? You know what I mean? Like, look at that thing. It's ridiculous. I'm ignorant of auto rotation. Could you explain it? Yeah, sure. Revenge is mine. Dick. Will you play this on stream someday? I don't know. Nominal? Maybe. What is that? Same as a Mark Twain quote. I would have written it shorter, but I didn't have the time. It takes talent to make things minimal and effective. That's correct. Waz, auto rotation? Can you indescriptly tell me where you're from? Like, it's for the sake of the analogy. It depends on what I come up with. Because if I say, hey, you know this thing, and you don't live in the right climate, you're going to be like, no, I have no idea what that means. You're Canadian. Okay. You ever see the little saplings that fall from the trees in fall, right? and they whirly-gig around. The Maple helicopters. Bingo. That's auto-rotation. So a helicopter, for instance. Say you're flying in your helicopter, right? Flying around in your helicopter, everything's all fine and dandy, and then the engine stops. Now what? Well, when helicopters' engines stop, all that magic that helicopters do to keep them off the ground, to repel the ground away from them, stops happening, right? So what helicopter pilots are trained to do is that. Maple whirligigs. So you take the blades on the helicopter, and instead of the blades being pointed down to generate lift, you flip them the other way to generate drag. So full collective pitch down, believe it or not. Yeah, full collective pitch down. So if the helicopter's falling out of the sky, it falling is going to move the blades. And helicopters can spin. If you're falling, the helicopter's using its kinetic energy, and the blades are whirligigging down. It literally does the same thing as the saplings. Same exact thing. So, believe it or not, you can build up enough RPM with your helicopter, even in the event of engine failure, you could still land. Oh yeah, auto-rotation. That's right, Signer. Yeah, you get the blade RPM up, and then you pull the collective at the last second, and you use all that energy to pitch up, and then the helicopter lands. Yeah, auto-rotation. That's what it is. You're basically using the kinetic energy of gravity, well, the potential energy of gravity to spin something, and that's where it converts into kinetic energy, and you basically land. So the Roton was a capsule that came back from space, or an SSTO. It was an idea for an SSTO that came back from space, right? And it kind of like New Shepard, only more triangular shaped, right? And instead of like parachutes or a retropropulsive landing, this thing would just deploy blades. Like the blades would come out the top of the capsule and then they'd fold down. And then when the capsule hit the lower parts of the atmosphere, these blades just start spinning. And then the Roton just lands like auto rotation with a helicopter. Yeah. Sure, of course that could work. You can make that in KSP with robotics. Oh yeah, totally doable. Yeah, of course the Roton would have worked. Most of the ideas that people have about rockets, these crazy ideas that you hear about, like Star Raker or Star Clipper, or, like DCX or Venture Star, X-33, stuff like that. Yeah, of course all that could work. They wouldn't have even bothered thinking about it if it couldn't. Sure, absolutely. Some of those ideas ended up becoming reality. Think about how stupid it is to bolt something to the side of the rocket. Yeah, I'm going to make a reusable space plane by bolting it to the side. Yeah, good idea. If the shuttle didn't exist and I tried, we showed this concept in Kerbal, people would be like, that's stupid. That never would work in real life. The shuttle is one of those crazy ideas that actually made it into real life. Sure, absolutely. I mean, heck, one could argue that Falcon 9 is ridiculous for what it does. I mean, look at this thing. That thing, like I said this at the beginning, look at that thing. What the hell? That's not right. That's ridiculous. What is that heli that uses auto rotations to make its blade into wings? It's called an auto gyro, Chief. Interesting, Hellfish. Yep. Waz, does that make sense, dude? Everybody ganks it till the silos start flying. You damn right, Caddy. Everybody ganks until the grain silo fly. Astronaut farmer my butt. You ain't no astronaut farmer. The real astronaut farmer doesn't launch themselves into space. They launch their grain silo into space. Boy. That makes a lot of sense. Great analogy. Yeah, that's why I asked, because if you lived in like Arizona, that the maple sapling thing wouldn't have made any sense. That wouldn't have made any sense. But Canada, yeah, no, you're from pretty much the same climate that I am. So yeah, I grew up with that stuff. The little whirligigs, Astronaut Farmer sounds like a mobile game. It's a movie. Thanks, bud. Oh, no problem there. No problem there, bud. Cheers to you. Cheers to you, buddy. Falcon 9 is ridiculous. It really is, Laserman. Yeah, we're at a point where landing a booster landing is not news. It's true. It lays around. People expect it to land. If something goes wrong, everyone goes, "Oh my God, what didn't land? What do you mean it didn't land?" It's like, what? Why launch missiles from silos when you could just launch the silo into space? The crazy part is that it's not crazy. Any engineering idea can work with, as long as it's in the confines of physics. As long as it works within the confines of physics, yeah, sure, why not? And the other part of that is if you have enough money to throw at the problem. People can make grain silos fly, but that doesn't come cheap. I mean, I'm just being real. I can make a grain silo fly on the cheap once. Yeah. Silo dust explosion. Yep. Can you believe that? They not only made one fly. I mean, that happened to them a couple of times, I know, right? They actually made one land. Pretty crazy. Okay, so I got a couple more things here. There was cryo testing for SN20 today. And we have a NASA spaceflight video. And then I got some pictures for you guys that you might enjoy. Here you go. Minot. Cool. I think that's Minot. Maybe, could be wrong. Yeah. Just, you know, in case you wanted to see these. That's pretty neat. I don't hate what's going on here, to be like 100% honest with you. I don't hate these pictures. I don't mind the Eurofighter has canards. I don't mind that it has canards. It was designed to have canards. Get this man into DCS. I don't mind this. I don't mind what's going on here. Apparently the B-52 is getting new engines finally. Not apparently. That was a multi-billion-dollar contract for Boeing to refit the entire fleet of B-52s and modernize them from the ground up. The B-52 is so ridiculously good at what it does that not only have we been using them for continuously for 50 plus years, that we will use them for pretty much another 50, which is another 30. Let's say another 30. Like, it's such a good design that they can take it apart, upgrade it, put it back together, and do that with the entire fleet multiple times over. Why don't they build new B-52s? Because they don't have to. Those airframes are, I'm telling you, man, Boeing broke the mold when they made that thing. Yeah, it's like the 1911. That's a good analogy, Seinerd. Colt 1911. It ain't broke, don't fix it. The last B-52 was manufactured in 1962. There's been no new B-52 production since then. It's ridiculous. The T-95 is also a good design. A little loud, but same idea. There you go, paper, right? Yep. The only thing older is the M2. The U.S. has been using that 50 cal Browning since, 1921? Something like that? 1921? In continuous service. Now, yeah, there you go, Jay. Forge, I'll check that in a second. Now, with that being said, I don't think there's like a 50 cal that's like was built in World War II that the armed forces are still using. They still make them. Jim, it's big, ugly, fat fella. Okay, fella. Don't be condescending. Okay, don't fat shame the B-52. Okay, it's just big, ugly, fat. Wait. Shh. But anyway, yeah, I thought you guys would like those pics. Anyway, let's check out the Starship footage. Here's the Starship video today. But it's not thick. It's skinny. Wrong, sir. We have a 50 cal that was made in 1924 at my unit. You know what, SKS? I've never been more delighted to be proven wrong. Are you serious? You have a 50 cal that's 98 years old, still in service? Are you freaking kidding me? No, tell me you're making that. Well, I believe you, but that's awesome. What a good design, man. You can't kill the 50s. Those, man, yeah, they broke Browning, man. He really knew what he was doing. I mean, still in service. It's full ship of Theseus. Yeah, I was going to say the barrel would wear out. That's cool, man. Like, there's nothing that is actually original except for the frame. Well, that's still cool. That's still cool. It was designed in 1918, yeah. Browning, man. The Colt 1911 is still used by Special Operations. It's been in service with the U.S. since 1911. It was the standard service pistol for all U.S. servicemen from 1911 to 1985, and then they replaced it with a Beretta, which is... yeah, that's neat, I guess. Berettas are nice. They're trying to make a lighter version of the 50 using modern materials and give it an 850 RPM rate of fire. Cool, man. That's really neat. That's cool, App State. The Vickers water-cooled machine guns are still also in reserve. No way, Pato. That's really neat. The Beretta was replaced by a SIG. What are they using? A P226 or something? Yeah, right. Go like you gotta push down a thing's crazy. P320? P320? SIG P320. This thing? What does it shoot? I don't know much about it. That's why I'm looking. 9x19, 357, 40 S&W, 45 ACP. Goes by the M17. Hey. Exeter, New Hampshire. There it is. Some of the military switched back to the 1911 or some SIGs over the M9. There are still issues with maintenance. Yeah, I mean, Berettas are good pistols, but 1911s will survive the apocalypse. That's cool. That's a cool pistol. Ooh, very nice. M&P. M&P, that's a nice... yeah, okay. Okay. Used for training in boot. Yeah, the M1917 Enfield. Cool. Used training boot camp until 1999. Hell yeah. Neat. Glock 17 will be around before we get back to the Ice Age. That's a good pistol, man. Everybody has a Glock 17, man. Revolver 1911 is the revolver of semi-autos. Drop it in the mud and it just keeps going. Yeah, it's a great design. I love 1911s, man. Anyway, that's cool that it can be chambered in a non-wimpy cartridge. Let's watch the Starship video, huh? Nice, B-Money. Hell yeah. I understand why people like 9mm. It goes very fast and it goes through things, and you can carry a lot of them in the magazine. With that being said, 45 ACP. Nice, Red Dead. Hell yeah. Military grade is whoever pinned the lowest. Nice colors. Oh, that's pretty. That's that big Texas sky, boy. Are they gonna start testing BN4? Maybe. Oh. M9? Yeah, that's nice, Chief. Yeah. That's cool, but 44 mag? Hell yeah. It's a 44 mag, the most powerful handgun in the world. Jeez, goalie, right? More methane being delivered from Stabilis. Stabilis? Bro, look at the Peterbilt. Hell yeah. That's a nice truck. That's a nice truck, dude. Got a light? Nah, I'm good. Burbs. See, you have that Chad tier Peterbilt, and then you have this. Oh, yes, it's a Volvo. It's a nice truck. Yes, don't touch me. I'm scared this thing. Matheson. Nice truck. What is that monstrous cab? It's called a sleeper firework. There's an apartment in the back of the truck. I like that. That was a nice truck. That 3500. Nice truck. Got a Cummins in it. Of course it's a nice truck. A lot of power. You should see the powerhouse. It's over there on the other side of the tank farm. Yeah, those. So like, guys, what they'll do is if you're going on a long haul truck, right? They'll have two truckers in there, right? And one sleeps while the other one drives in the back of the truck, like in the sleeper. There's like an apartment back there with a TV and a kitchen and all this stuff. It's actually cool. It's a little tiny RV, right? And then the other guy will finish his leg, right? And you stop at a rest stop, right? The other guy will wake up, There's a bathroom in it too, which is cool. On some of them don't. And then that guy will drive, and the other guy goes to sleep. It's cool. That's really neat. I think that's really cool. That's right, Gaw. Most have no bathroom. Yeah. I didn't know that truckers drove in pairs. I just assumed it was always solo. Just like an airplane, Merc. Yeah, always have two guys. I mean, it depends. It really depends. A lot of guys do solo. A lot of guys fly by themselves. Not fly. They truck by themselves. It really depends. It depends on how far you're going. Because, yeah, it really depends on how far you're going and how fast you need to get there. Yeah, it depends. But yeah, like if it's a long trip, like if you're going if you did the route that I did for Route 154, and you needed to do it fast, you'd have two guys. Yeah, two dudes. Oh yeah. Cruise ships have double crews. Most things that go long distances do, Chief, right? Like, there's still the 14-hour limit per driver. Yeah. I knew a trucker who did both at different points in his career. I mean, Graham, that's actually kind of cool. Like, you know, I'll be honest with you. Like, I can see how that would get really old really fast. But long haul trucking seems like that's kind of fun, actually. Like, and I'm probably looking at it like grass is greener on the other side. But that would be, dude, that'd actually be kind of cool. You get to drive a new place all the time, or well, most of the time you don't. It's just the same place all the time. But yeah, Rep it, we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. That's what that song is about. I team truck for 6 to 8 months. That sounds fun. Like, Sitherly, am I wrong? Like, it sounds fun, but I also could see how that would get old really quickly and get very obnoxious, especially if the guy you were driving with was an idiot. You know, like, I could definitely see that. Yeah, it gets old, Flight Sim. Yeah, I mean, Flight Sim, there's even pilots that I talk to that's just, you know, you're running the legs, you fly the plane, and it's just a bus with wings, you know? Like, yeah, there's a lot of truckers that watch this stream, Falcon, yeah. It turns out I'm really good background noise for when you're long hauling. Yeah. All right, sounds good to me. Personally, I love driving, dudes. That's part of the reason why I knew I could do Route 154. I love driving. I love exploring. That's like, I mean, that's probably why I like spaceflight a lot, you know? Seriously, for me, driving the whole of the UK servicing at different towns and cities each day is definitely enjoyable. Yeah, right? Yeah. Hey, J-Beck, what's going on? Your stream is always up while I do stuff. Well, I appreciate it. For me, no. I miss being home, but drove with one of my best friends. But yeah, there's really no time to stop and enjoy anything. Yeah, it's kind of like Route 154. Yeah, so yeah, I get you. You're good background noise for everything. All right, sweet. There's even truckers that have rigged a console, smaller PC to monitor. Yeah, hell yeah. You just have really good background noise. Thank you. I wonder if there's uncapped cell plans that trucker use for that. Starlink, baby. Soon. Not right now. In the future, though, yeah, there probably is. They have satellite. Some trucks have satellite TV, dude. I'm telling you, you can. I was talking with Ernog about this. You could drop like $500,000 on a nice truck, $500,000 on a nice rig, and this is like basically an RV. It's basically a small apartment bolted to the back of the truck. It looks like that Peterbilt that I showed you. But you get it kind of a la carte, right? So you order it with what you want. Like that has a decent sleeper on it. That's pretty big. Like, that's what these skylights are for. There's bunk beds in here. This Peterbilt has, dude, that thing has like a whole apartment in the back, man. You know, like, look at how big that truck is. It's huge. That's a huge piece of equipment. See how, like, look at how long it goes back. Like, there's probably a full-size bed in that sucker, which is cool. And this one, see, that one has bunk beds. I don't think the Peterbilt has bunk beds. You're also currently on a 60-inch TV while you make risotto. Nice. Really nice truck is like 1.7 mil. Yeah, they're cool, man. Trucks are neat. Like, big rigs are neat. I mean, I like my pickup trucks, but I see why people like big rigs. Oh, we haven't gotten that far into the video. All right, let's go right... Where were we? Here we go. Yeah, go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Signerd. Mm-hmm. J-Beck. 4-month resub. Cool. Sometimes it's hard to hear you during work. Cool. L Gang. Oh, that's cool. First, and Forge, this was the other thing. The first Dream Chaser launch on a ULA Vulcan is now scheduled for the first quarter of 2023, about a year from now. Okay. Dude, seeing what we saw in Kerbal today, who was here for that? I tried to make the carriage for this in KSP and not have anything bind up. Knowing what we know about how that all works, now think about that they picked up Starship and it had no deflection. The thing didn't bend at all. Pretty crazy, right? Do you know why American trucks have those long noses and not a flat surface like the ones in the EU, or the other way around? We have flat nose trucks over here, Nora. Yeah, we have those too. They're called cab overs. They make them. They're around. Not as much as you don't really see much cab overs lately. I'm not sure the exact reason, but we do have them. Well, that's a Mercedes, but yeah. Yeah, they're not very aerodynamic. Nice. Oh, that's an old school cab over. Cool. Yeah, see? They're around. They're just, yeah. I think aerodynamic, that's Australia, man. Yeah, I think it has probably something to do with aero, if I had to guess. Oh, now we're talking. That's cool. Yeah, look at that thing. That thing has one hell of a sleeper in it. It's very weird looking. The cabos have to do with the max length rule that used to exist. Oh, okay. Yeah, I get you. I get you. Oh, that's sick, dude. Look at that Jeep. That's cool. All right. Back to this. In Europe, it's the total length of the truck plus trailer is regulated. Oh.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Because in the EU, the whole truck length is considered, whereas rules in NA are more lax and only take into account cargo length. Interesting. Cab over is not an aerodynamic. EU still have lengthy restrictions. US got rid of them, allowing our style of trucks. Interesting. Now they're around, Kuro. Yeah, no, the cab overs are not as aerodynamic, dudes. They're not as aerodynamic. Even that thing with that big front sticking out is still more aerodynamic. Cab overs are extra dangerous? No, they're not dangerous. The Europeans, literally every truck in Europe is a cab over. Yeah, there you go, Forge. Yeah, Gratian. Interesting. You drive a Scania in the EU? Scanias are okay, Ving. Yeah, those are nice trucks. I mean, I'll be honest with you, dude, and I know this is going to come as a very big surprise. The American is choosing the American trucks. I'd take a Peterbilt, but yeah, couldn't drive that in Europe. A Euro truck driving stream? Why don't I just do it in real life, B? Why don't we just do another Route 154? That's why I'm going to play Truck Simulator in real life. I'll go do it, and we have the equipment to do that. Remember. Get your CDL. Because it's cheaper? Yes. Because it would cost a lot more money? Yeah, but it's a lot cooler. Yeah, a party bus, Hellfish. When the weather gets a little nicer, I'm going to do another Route 154. If it didn't snow in Boston, I would have had all the fixes for the truck done by now. A trip up to Jasper and Banff in Alberta? You want me to drive to Berta? There must be something really nice up there for me to want to go up there, dude. That's a long way away. Yeah, there you go, girl. Come on by. Maple syrup? I could just go 6 hours north and get poutine and maple syrup. Like, 154 to the Indy 500. The truck has been to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I stopped and took a picture. I'm so done with winter. Dude, me too. Rocky Mountaineer. Cool. I want to drive down for SLS, Foz. Yeah, I do. That's why I'm kind of like, oh, got delayed till when it's not snowing. Yay! All right. Yeah, Dev, it's going to be warm the next couple of days, which is nice. You and Brimo are always welcome. We treat you to the proper Montreal experience. Dude, I've been up there plenty of times, flight sim for the Formula One race. I like Montreal. Fun city. I'm serious. I hate the Canadiens. You guys, that part I don't like. But you guys probably don't like me either. So, whatever. So, as long as it's mutual hatred, we're good. Like, that's the equivalent. That's like the same as mutual friendship. It's the same thing. As long as it's equal, right? That's what everybody wants nowadays. Nice and equal. If you equally hate everybody, does that make you a bad person? Because I'm talking about hockey teams, not that. Don't read into that more than it needs to be read into, please. It's okay. I watch you despite you being a Bruins guy. Ving, you want to show your truck? Dude, I will pop that thing right onto the stream. Let me see. Please check it. Hell yeah. Let me see. Push this right onto the stream. Hey, all right. Yeah, look at this thing. That's the hardest thing a crane does. I'll go back and look at it in a second, dude. All right. That's your rig, dude? That's nice, man. That's a nice truck. Yeah, pretty. 25 meters long, dude. She's a beast. She's a beast. That's a big cab, man. Well, not a big cab. That's a lot of truck, dude. Biggest in Scandinavia? Hell yeah, man. I love trucks, dude. I really don't care where they're from. That's the honest truth. Yeah, she's a beast, man. 25 meters? Really? Guys, this thing's like 80 feet long for Americans. It's like 80, 90 feet long. The thing's freaking huge. How do you reverse that? Carefully. That's cool, man. Thank you for showing me. I appreciate it. So this right here, goalie, I mean, yeah, look at the boom. See the main boom is bending. B-train would be 120, 130. I say it's duck season. Yeah, look at that. Look at that, huh? Oh, that's crazy. That's nuts, man. It's designed to bend a little bit, Hillness. Yeah, of course. Yeah, bend, don't break. That's literally how the crane works. You're always going to get some bend. You're going to get some deflection some way or another. Do you know anything about blue and red shift? No. That's not even a big crane, guys. Like, the Liebherr 11,000 that SpaceX has at the build site is way bigger than that crane. That's a small crane. That's a small lattice crane. Oh, God, I'm doing the thing that goalie used to do. That's not even a big crane. Doppler effect for light. Neat. It is, Flight Sim. Really, it is. It's a small crane. That's a small lattice crane, by definition. Physically, it is a big crane. That's about as big as you can. There's like two different types of lattice cranes. There's small stuff, and then there's the big stuff. That's not an 11,000 that you guys just saw, I don't think. Let me look at it again. I might be wrong. Oh, no. Nope. I looked at it wrong. That's a big crane. Yeah, that's a big lattice crane. Yeah. That's the small lattice crane in the background. I thought, sorry, I made a mistake. I thought that this was that one. See the small lattice as opposed to the big lattice? See how thick the bars are on this thing compared to that one? Thick. Objects moving away from you have a red shift, while moving towards you have a blue shift. Neat. Villeneuve is in the show Sunday? That's cool. Yeah, see that one? That's a small lattice crane. I thought that was this crane. This is a different crane. That's a big lattice crawler crane. So because this thing is that thing is really long, the main boom is really long, and then the jib is really short, and then the extension is really short. This thing, I can tell you right now that this thing, well, we know what it's for. It's designed to move pretty heavy things up. Like, it's designed to move stuff up. These sub-assemblies for the wide bay is what it's probably going to move. But it's not designed to move stuff like far, like out. It's designed to pull stuff straight up, kind of like a tower crane almost. See how long the boom is? You see how short the extension is? See how short the jib is? And there's only one jib. This crane can have two of them. This thing is designed to pull stuff. It's designed to put sub-assemblies, pull them up, not move them very far. Just pull them up and put them right on, and then... Yeah, cranes move stuff, I know. See the smaller one over here? I thought that was this crane. Sorry, I misjudged. I thought it was this guy. That's the small lattice crane. That's the big lattice crane. So you guys are right. That is a big crane. That's a very big crane. Boat. Burb. Boat. Yeah, that's a beast of a crane. Notice how they, as they lift the crane up, they extend the cables and they keep the hooks on the crane low. Yeah, that's to make sure that you keep the center of gravity low when you pull the crane up like that. See the hook? I'm trying to scroll down on a video. The hooks are down here, and then when the crane gets into the upright position, then they'll pull the hooks up. What those are for. Yeah, Laserman, right? Your crane phase was amazing. I learned so much. That was fun, man. I like doing crazy R&D projects like that. I could make it better, Flight Sim. I could make it better. I know a lot more about cranes since the last time I tried to make one of those. Wood Brothers on top. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. There's that cargo bay door Pathfinder. I still can't figure out how the frick that thing works. I think it like slides forward and then out or something. I don't know. Green pop in the foreground? Oh, green poop. How long have you all been eating poop? We don't do that. Oh, I'll talk to you later then. Bye. Tiny hinges. Yeah, something like that, dude. Ship 24, mid-lock section left and common dome section right. What happened to 23? Scrap. Insulation or tiles. Oh, new structure next to the high bay. Well, that's pretty neat. Yeah, Ving, it's cool, isn't it? Yeah. Unknown parts could be the door, yeah. It's an automatic stud gun. Plums. My guess is that it's a stud welder. It's a stud welder on a jig, so they rotate the ring and it just goes. and then as it rotates, that's my guess. I don't know for sure though. Nominal segment. Shipping to Boker. Can I see that thing one more time, dudes? If you don't mind. What is this? What is that thing? Huh. That's a shame, Hellfish. I wonder what these things are. I can imagine how much it has to suck to be up on a lift doing all that metalwork during the summer. Yep. Tower or arm cladding? Yeah, maybe. Nominal segments delivered. Tell us in the comments what you think the nominal segment is. I don't know. They kind of do look like arrow covers, but I can't tell. Yeah, strange. There's the work order. 2073760. Interesting. Alright, guys. That's all I have for you for Space News today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Good conversations. SLS will fly 4 times a year by the end of the decade. Shut up. I know it will. Anyway. Good conversation. Sorry. Good conversations. Yeah, a lot of good stuff going on. Always. So, yeah. The next Space News will be tomorrow. Tomorrow around 4 or 5 o'clock. But, quick scan that QR code. I think it's time for the After Space News segment, which is... talked about it already, Airborne. I have no idea, Firework. It's time for some... Wait for it.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Southern Gent, 50-month resub. We gotta wait.